Z-Man's gonna try to do this on YouTube. Give him like 5 minutes.
Word.
I need you to stream it on Twitch, Andrew. Technical difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask. AEI, one of you guys or Andrew, can you guys stream it on Twitch? Technical difficulties?
So what would they do? Just like stream ZMN's feed through Discord?
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be a little bit harder, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna have to be, right?
because there's like all kinds of graphics and shit going on.
I mean, then all the captains and all the commentators have to be in this channel while they stream it so they can hear our voice.
Yep.
Or we can star scramble the draft.
Here, hold on, Flare. Let me send you this. Hold on. No, it's still not working. Let me send you this.
This one looks like it's gonna work.
You want to link me to Flare? I'll click it too.
Hold up, it's loading. Let me send it to you, Kev.
I even tried to boost the server today. Not enough.
Yeah.
No, it's not gonna work. It's not.
Need like 4 more gems to get to the next one.
Oh, it says two watching now, but I hear audio. I hear my audio.
Okay, so you're able to hear. Do you hear that?
Yeah, like it's delayed, so I can hear myself like a few, about 10 seconds later. I hear myself.
Oh man. Limit job. Abbott, we're having technical difficulties. We're trying to transition to YouTube. There is a 10-second delay potentially.
About 30-second delay. I counted.
Oh.
Yeah,
What's
about
the
30
link?
seconds.
Man, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Okay, hold on. Okay, what if you go now?
I'll refresh it. Okay.
At least Mixup's not dead. That's the most important part.
Okay, like go all the way towards live.
Yeah, I am live. I hear it when you play it.
Can I get a link?
Yeah, I hear it.
But then the only thing I'm thinking is, will it pick up on? Will all of our voices pick up on USL or on CTFDL Discord?
It's just really delayed. That's the only thing.
Kids playing Pokemon.
I mean, if there's time between each round, it shouldn't matter. They're all muted in another channel anyways if they're watching it that way.
Okay, this is what we'll do. Okay, let me do one thing real quick, and then we're just gonna try it, and we'll see what happens. But
whatever you're doing, Z, you might want to hurry it up. People are getting a little restless.
yeah, I know.
Hearthpool, can you just like go tell a story about your birthday or something to these people?
No.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm entertaining them in chat by completely bad mouthing ZMN. It's all good.
yes,
no.
yes, thank you. Okay, so let me go.
Nope. You stopped it.
Here.
Yeah, let me see if I can get my Twitch up. 1 second.
Okay, new link.
Nope. I gotta.
Yeah, that works. This link works.
Okay, then I'm just going to leave that alone. But we need somebody to identify whether or not they can hear y'all talking or no or not.
And I get the link.
Yeah. Here, let me send the link to Kev.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Kev, you keep the sound on it, and maybe like meet me on Discord or something to test it.
Yeah, link me first.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, actually, sorry. PM it to me on Kev1.
What the fuck?
Well, I'm on
Where the
2.
fuck is Kev1?
Alternate account.
Okay.
I'm in the
I found it.
CTFDL
I
live
found it.
one.
There you go. You have to accept the message request.
Sure.
I sent it to you, Kev.
All right, cool.
My goofy ass picture shows up on there for some reason.
Yeah, that's your
Cool.
that's your profile picture.
Freaking lame, man.
That's no, you know what? With how boomer this whole thing has been, that picture is actually perfect. You're like that.
Okay. Good God. Okay.
All right, is it working?
So we just need to know, whose all voices can you hear, if anybody's, from the or can y'all watch the stream and just listen to Discord
I
USL
still
Live?
need the stream.
I sent it to Kev, but
I'm testing it. Say
so
something.
you can hear our voices then.
So I mean, can we still do voice chat with this many people? So
Actually,
we can just keep
the link
voice
you
chat
gave,
live.
the link you gave me, it's playing his video.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
playing the video.
Go to live. Go to live. Like you have to fast forward to live.
Oh, it is. It's still playing the video.
Yeah. That's what I've got up there right now. I've got the video, and then I've got in-game infantry up now.
All right, I'm gonna refresh it.
I can hear the Discord on it. Yeah.
It's like a 5-second delay though.
All right. Well, then the stream will be the option for people who want to be able to watch it, and then almost everything else is going to be, live commentary, and we'll just go with that. Any issues?
No.
No.
So if people want to stream it and they're not in game, they're more than welcome to stream it. If not, they can just do as is.
Sure.
All right. If y'all can share the YouTube link in game, so for people who may want to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and move into the Discord, go into voice, and I'll start with the narration of the opening. Apologize for some technical delays, and pass this off for about 5 minutes of pre-draft discussion, and then we'll get it going with Abith in game, announcing the first pick has 60 seconds, and getting the captain's chat going. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
Yeah, we should probably just skip the pregame
Let's
analysis.
just go.
Just skip it. Just get to the.
Yeah, we
first
should
pick.
skip the
let's
pregame.
just
Alright.
I think so. Yeah,
go.
people are already kind of rested.
All right. Hey, but no trolling. This sucks. It sucks for everybody. We don't
No,
need
it
to
happens, bro.
beat it. We don't
It
need to beat it
moves.
to
what
death.
Go,
it
go, go.
All right, let's
Yeah, we
Get
just
it
gotta
on
go
the
now.
road.
all
All
right.
I'm
Send the
dragging
link.
Good luck.
all of
Have
you.
fun.
I'm dragging all of you down there now. So.
Okay.
All right, everybody. ZMN here. We apologize for the significant technical delays. Like anything else, we never start on time, even though we want to. But nonetheless, I'd like to welcome you all to the first version of CTF Draft League here in Free Infantry. We are so thrilled and excited to extend a warm welcome to all of you as we embark on this exciting journey together. Today marks a significant milestone as we launch the inaugural Capture the Flag Draft League in partnership with freeinfantry.com. This is a historic moment as we revive and celebrate the CTF community's return to organized play. After building up tremendous hype and anticipation, it's incredible to see our vision come to life with an amazing turnout of 114 registered players, ready to dive into action. Your enthusiasm and participation are what make this event truly special, and we couldn't be more excited to kick things off. So we envision this league as just the beginning, with many more CTF-related activities and events to follow. Thank you for joining us and making this possible, and let's get ready for an unforgettable experience, and let's make this the first of many great moments together. So like I said at the beginning, thank you all for being here. ZMN here, so fortunate to be joined by our other commentators, Flair, Hearthbull, Kev, and Mecca. We're excited to get this thing going. Our original plan was to involve some pregame draft analysis. We're not going to waste much more of your time in order to do that. But right before we get things kicked off, I'd like to pass it off to Flair for a few words. Flair, welcome. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you for everyone for being so patient while we figured out those issues. But I think we are good to go now, and we're very excited for this draft. I know that we've been talking about it and planning about it and going through mock drafts, and we're excited to share all of that with you guys.
Yeah, we really are, and I think we couldn't get this thing started without extending our sincere appreciation to a few people. Certainly, our 6 captains that have volunteered to help make this a possibility. We've got Decker, Posty, Mixum, Dark Bomber, Metal, and Verb, of course. We could not be more excited to get these teams picked. And with that, Abith, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, let's get the draft started. I know everyone's chomping at the bit to see who's going to be the #1 pick of this draft. I think amongst the commentators here, we do have like a consensus #1 pick. Not sure if I should spoil that or not. I'm not sure if it's even going to come true.
Let's hear the pick.
So as we're waiting for Posty to submit his first pick, I think it's important that we let everybody know what the process is going to look like. So each captain's going to have 60 seconds to make their selection. At the end of that 60 seconds, we're going to announce who the pick is before it moves on to the next person. And like Flair was saying, there's a variety of people that probably could go first pick. I know Sov is a favorite, but there's a couple people out there that could be a dark horse. Kev, as we're waiting for that pick to come in, is there anybody out there that can compete with Sov for a first pick?
Likely his brother Iron Monkey. Smoka can also be a first pick also, just based on limited infantry classes that are in this draft. He's also a game breaker. Potentially even Flair himself also.
Oh, Posty needs to wake up here.
Yeah, and it looks like Posty might be having some issues on his end, not being able to hear the stream. If people in-game cannot hear anything, can y'all communicate something? It says mute the soundboard. Can Rev or DP take a look at the soundboard, see if we're having an issue there?
I can't hear anyone talking other than you.
Yeah, that's fine. I think for this draft, like if you're the #1 pick, I feel like the most important thing that these captains should be looking at in the first round of the draft is really building their infantry corps, building up their fighting classes. That's another reason why I kind of think Sov is going to go #1, just because he brings that and he brings good comms as well. So still waiting for Posty to step up with his pick here. It'd be a shame if he passed it.
It would not be a good start.
not a good start.
Yeah, and it does look like Posty's speaking in the captain's chat, and he's having some difficulty hearing the stream, so he wasn't aware that he was prompted to pick. But Abith, he went ahead and made a pick. Let's go ahead and get that announced, and we'll work on Posty's technical issue after the fact.
Mm-hmm. So just waiting on Abbott to post the chair. Any other thoughts on the way the captains should be drafting in the first round, and like what you would personally look at for the #1 pick, Hearthbull?
I'm just waiting for this. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Go.
now it's prompted.
All right, there we've got a selection that's been made. And
Oh,
for the
wait, can you
first
announce
pick
it?
for CTFDL 2024, first pick is Sov.
Yeah, as expected. Um, the good thing about Sav is he has good connections with the USL community. He's turned into a good leader in this game. He's obviously a very solid player. I I feel like this is a really strong first selection for Posty, and the consensus #1 pick.
Agreed completely. Like, Sov's a game changer. The way he can lead the team, that's really important. He can play every class as well.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that kind of hits on the most important thing is, in this draft league, unlike when you're recruiting for kind of a normal squad, the reliance on people who can play multiple classes is pretty significant and can play a big role in somebody's value. We may have some excellent people out there that, may be a D infantry expert, but the downside is, given who shows up and who your team composition ends up being made of, people who can play multiple classes is vitally important.
oh, selection's been made from Dark Bomber.
Is he second pick?
Yeah, he's second pick.
Rotate my tab.
In a surprise turn of events, Dark Bomber selects ZMN.
Oh, he does.
Wow.
He's
The
again.
end games.
Wow, that's
I
So-
did not see that coming.
I will say this is a big surprise already. I was not expecting ZMN to go so early in this draft. I feel like it's an interesting pick. I don't think it's a bad pick,
I don't think it's bad.
but definitely a little earlier than what I thought. Any other thoughts on this, Hearthpool, Kev?
I would say ZMN is a very good multi-classer. He provides engineer support. He can also play medic and infill also, which are very important to CTF.
He also just picked his captain.
It's interesting though because the captains for the most part are all supports, so the focus should have been on fighting classes. And CMN again, he's a great multi-classer, but doesn't mean he's a specialist at fighting.
Yeah, it's true. I really feel like having that strong infantry core, that strong fighting core, is going to really compensate for your support classes in the end. And getting outfought in a game, it feels really miserable. It feels really bad. So even though I don't think it's an awful pick, I'm really surprised to see it.
And I will add, considering I'm very
Third
surprised
pick's
to go this early. It's certainly an honor, but I do agree with the analysis. We're certainly going to need to focus on some fighters moving forward.
Looks like that's what David's focused on.
Oh,
And it's great to see third overall pick going to Mixum's team. Fangs out is Jay. And a lot of people know Jay as Smoka. He's an OM extraordinaire. Kev, you've had significant experience playing with Smoka, both in organized play and in OVDs and mixes. What can Smoka bring to the table, and how much of an asset is that going to be to Fangs out?
After playing with him for multiple seasons in PL, he's one of the few game-breaking infantries that know how to finish a player, also time people's attaches right as they respawn, which can lead to clears, which also leads to 10-man. He is also able to play Infiltrator, which is another difficult class to play on 10-man.
oh, looks like a selection's been
Well,
made again.
fourth pick and spelled wrong.
And I think briefly too, before that gets announced, I think Smoka, while he is an OM extraordinaire, over the past couple months since he's returned to free infantry, he really has expanded what he plays. He's a competent O heavy. He's dabbled in playing both at foot and pack JT. But one thing about Smoka that's routinely come up when many of us have our nostalgic conversations about the good old days, you notice that Smoka is routinely listed as one of the best O infantries of all time. And now that we've covered that, Decker has made the next selection, which is Tyrael.
Selected Tyrael, yeah. It's a little earlier than what I thought for him as well, but obviously Decker feels very confident in Tyrael's abilities to D-heavy. He's a really, really good D-heavy. He has been for a very
Solid.
long time. So I don't think that's a bad pick. I feel like it is a fighting class. It will give him an anchor on defense, and it kind of gives you an insight on his strategy for his drafting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think given the population, he's probably one of, if not the number one overall D heavy in the game currently. Certainly Tyrael likes to dabble with different metas and things kind of beyond the standard combinations of AC, SC, and MML. But when he is using that more of a traditional setup, he can provide a significant asset to the defense. But I would also argue that his O heavy is fairly significantly powerful as well.
All right,
And
I hate to break
in a
this
pinch,
up.
he's got the ability to de-infantry as well.
The picks are rolling in right now. We just had Ruler, then Verb, then Bonds and BT back to back from Metal.
Oh, so Verb selected
I'm
ruler.
just telling you.
Yeah, you need. We're just following the in-game prompts here, DP. So Verb gets
So,
ruler,
yeah,
also known as
without
Wolven,
spoiling
right?
it. Yep, Verb gets Ruler, who is a infantry legend Wolven. He really got involved in CTFPL back in season 11. I think he dabbled a little bit prior to that. So it took him a little while to get involved in CTFPL and organized CTF play. But once he did, he really rose to the top of the ranks as a primarily D infantry pretty quickly. Flair, I know you had some time playing with Wolven on BDS over the years. What can you say about his D-infantry, his versatility, his ability to be a teammate? What are your thoughts?
He was a good teammate. He's a good person to play with. When I played with him on BDS, he anchored our defense as a CAW infantry and sometimes a shotgun infantry. Uh, Defensively, he's always really solid positionally. He knows when to be aggressive. I think he brings like a really stabilizing force to any defense he's on.
I agree, and I think with this next selection that's just been made, I think it could be a potential another upset considering the need for fighting classes. But Metal, for his first overall selection, has selected Bonds, a strong medic, a strong squad leader. We also have a strong medic and squad leader in the commentator channel. Hearthbull, what are your thoughts? Bonds?
Plays aggressive both sides, very solid. I'm shocked he went first round, but I would have thought he would have gone second. But there's not a big pool of competent squad leaders in this draft, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the overall look at the draft selection for these first 6 rounds, kind of going into this, I thought we'd find a similar theme that we do in OVDs and mixes, where people really work to stack the defense. They prioritize their D infantries, they prioritize their D heavy. And we've already seen now some support classes go off the board. Really, only just one D infantry and Sov go off the board for the first 6 rounds. Kev, what are your thoughts on draft strategy, and is this the right focus of the captains right now?
I can see it being drafted either way. Just as Decker drafted Tyrael, he is focusing more on potentially his defense first and drafting offense afterwards with his next few picks.
I'm really surprised to not see Iron Monkey taken at this point. I would have thought Iron would have gone a lot earlier, and so seeing like a good fighting fighting class player like Iron go this late. He also plays a really strong SL. He plays a lot of different classes, so I'm really confused. Maybe just overlooked by the captains here.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes, even if somebody is maybe primarily an O infantry, kind of like Iron Monkey is, they also have the ability to play competent D infantries as needed, even if it's not their primary pick.
So just in case you missed it, ZMN Metal did make his back-to-back pick. He selected BT with his second choice.
That's another interesting pick, but albeit a good one. BT is routinely recognized as the top engineer of the game, not just in free infantry, but one of the best engineers of all time. He is a hybrid engineer who does a great job finding that balance between mining and fighting and supporting his offense when needed. A good pick, but yet again, we're running into this theme of support classes going pretty early. Do you think this is because there's just not enough support classes to go around? Do you think there's an effort to try to deny other teams the ability to get some of these elite supports off the board? What's your thoughts on strategy?
Again, I would have gone with the fighting classes first.
Yeah.
The support, again, critical to whether it's offense or defense, but you can get away with a competent one as opposed to having just a standout fighting class, which really can change the flow.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of see some strategies coming out here. So Metal does play a fighting class, right? So his picks make a little bit more sense. He's gathering his supports. He's saying, I want the strongest supports available. And in BT and Bonds, he's not too far off the mark with that. So I do kind of see what he's doing here. So his picks don't really surprise me too much. They're not really the picks I would have made, but I do appreciate his strategy with it. I I would like to see, you know, a couple more fighting classes be picked up quickly here by a couple of these teams before they start to really, fall behind.
And
And
speaking of iron that Flair mentioned earlier, the next the next pick that goes as we are on round 2 is Verb, who selects Iron Monkey, another competent OIMF. Flair, as an OIMF yourself, thoughts on iron?
uh, as a bad OINF, I can say that Iron is much better at OINF than I am. I think this is a great pick. I had Iron going like number 2 in this draft, number 2, number 3. I don't think that Verb went wrong with this pick. I feel like he has the monopoly on the strong fighting classes right now with Wolven and Iron. He's setting himself up for success here.
Yeah, I agree. And Mecca, I know you're somebody who routinely plays O heavy, and certainly in order to be an O heavy, you've got to have some competent OIMFs that are on your team. Mecca, what does Iron bring to the table, and how effective is he as an OIMF, especially on a power offense?
I mean, Iron is my favorite O infantry to play with. I think he's the best in the game. I do not know how he slid this far. I think people are trying to stack defense, but Iron gives you everything. He stays alive forever. He can hold chokes. He's good with his RGs from Africa. He can pretty much do anything. So I think this is a great pick. And I don't know if you can call, the number 8 pick in the draft a steal, but I do think this is a steal.
Oh, 100% of steal. Like it's not even a question. Like Verb just robbed this draft getting Iron this late.
I had him number 2 in my power ranking.
Yeah, me too, man. Like it's crazy that he fell so late, but you know, oh, here's a pick.
And speaking of late picks, we've got another pick with a great infantry getting off the board, our very own Flair. And now, before I pass this off to Hearth for his thoughts on Flair, I will opine myself. So Flair and I go back many, many years ago, playing in season 6 of CTFPL for what is basically both of our first organized CTF opportunity. And very quickly since then, Flair turned into probably the best D infantry that's played CTFPL. While he's versatile, he can play OINF, whether or not he likes to admit that. He can play O infantry. He can dabble in some other classes, with the exception of O engineer, of course. But Flair is easily one of the best infantries of all time and an absolute excellent addition to Decker's team.
All right, and since he just basically used stuff all the time, I'll just say this: O engineer is not a thing. So as long as Flair plays a real class, it's a good pick.
I feel like ONG can work. I feel like it can work.
I also agree with that too. Single Dragon is the greatest offense of all time.
Well, in the spirit of engineers, as it's Mixum's next turn, he selects Jackie. And Jackie is another excellent multi-classer. Kev, you're somebody who's had the opportunity to play with Jackie before. What does Jackie bring to the table? How valuable is he to any team he's part of?
Yeah, just like Smoka, Jackie is a jack of all trades. Also, he can play engineer, plays infantry, heavy, infill. He can do a little bit of everything, and he's one of those secret gems that uses G9 on offense.
Jackie is somebody who can, even though, G9's not always traditionally part of the meta, he's actually somebody who can make it work, and it can be pretty effective. And what I think is special about Jackie, not just his ability to multi-class, but Jackie, I think, has got some of the best game awareness. He knows the plays to make, he knows the classes to be at the right time, and Jackie's an effective player, but he's also an effective leader, and he's very vocal on Discord. He's very vocal when trying to lead a team, and I think overall an excellent pick to go in the second round.
Yeah, getting Jackie that late's great.
Now, Dark Bomber, who earlier picked a support class primarily, selects Shadow with his second overall pick, competent D infantry. Mecca, I think you've had the opportunity to play with Shad before, if not with him, against him. How effective is Shad as a D infantry, and what can you tell us?
Yeah, I think Shad is a great D infantry too. Obviously, he's one of the best miners in the game too. which doesn't, if you're new to CTF, doesn't seem like it's that effective. But if you can halt a run by getting an OMF kill or getting the SL killed right away, I think that's huge. And then obviously around the boxes, he's near impossible to kill. He plays around his other B infantries perfectly, and he's one of the best box dodgers I've ever seen.
And what I always like to think about when I think about what separates elite infantries from just really good infantries, it may seem like an underrated thing, but the ability to change armor. And Shad is one of those people that just when you think he's Kara, he surprises you and he's P6 and vice versa. He does a good job of keeping the offense on their toes. And while he's not the most vocal person in the world, he's vocal when it matters. And he's a very talented player, and he's I think an excellent pick by Dark Bomber for round 2.
Yeah, that mind laming though, it's very frustrating when you're an O infantry and you burn all your reps pushing in and you just run over a plasma mine and 3 bullet mines and instantly die and ruin your run. So it's very deceiving. He does play kind of a passive style, but I think that can also be pretty effective given the different styles that he can potentially be paired with. Oh, selection's been made.
Oh yeah, and I think we're going to start seeing a theme now, especially what we noticed given the first round with some supports going off the board. I think the next couple of rounds are we're going to be where we're going to see a lot of our O and D infantries coming off the board.
Yeah, I think I would like to see Posty pick up a strong D infantry here. Oh,
And he's done exactly that. Posty, for his second overall pick, picks Greed, or Sword of Rage, popular CAW D infantry. Hearth, I know you've had the opportunity to play with Greed in a variety of mixes and OVDs, both probably as a medic and as a D infantry partner. What are your thoughts on Greed? What does he bring to a team?
I love Jake. Great personality. It's fun to play with him. He's talented at CAW. He does shotgun a little. He'll admit himself he's just not that confident with it, but he works well. People have been playing with him a long time. I enjoy it. It's a good pick.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what's nice about Greed, too, he's not one of these perma-D infantries. He's flexible enough to be able to play on offense when needed. He knows how to competently 10-man infill on both offense and defense. And an excellent partner to work alongside Greed, presumably, is Posty's third selection, and that's Bale, or Parabola. Kev, I know you guys go back to old squatty days with Bale, back when he was a little bit newer. Certainly he's grown a lot. What can you tell us about Bale? What does he bring to a team?
One of the better individual fighters on defense. He can actually play A7 and D7. Tends to get caught out of position sometimes, but overall, great fighter.
Yeah, I agree, and I had the great luxury of Bale being on Pure Talent back when we won the championship match, and he was a starting D infantry there. And if he's paired with the right D infantry partner or D heavy partner, he really can be an extremely effective player. He certainly could benefit from being a little bit more vocal or being vocal on Discord chat, but thankfully he's still a great team player, willing to work alongside anybody he's working with, and overall going to be a great asset to Posty. Now it looks like Dark Bomber making an early pick of somebody who's been gone for a little while, but with Dark Bomber's next pick, he chooses RR User. Good friend.
Yeah, wow.
Been around a long time. Hearth, you and Matt are close friends. Y'all get along really well. What can you tell us about Matt and RR User?
Okay. Like, I love Matt, but seriously, he doesn't play a lot. I mean, he used to be good. I'm interested to see how washed or not washed he's going to be.
Yeah, I would say this pick is very surprising to me. So this is the second time Dark Bomber has surprised me with his pick this draft. So I don't have anything against RR User. He, like Hearthbull said, he used to be a good player back in the day. He doesn't play anymore, really. He's coming back for this draft league. So um, I'm really surprised with all the talent that's currently out there that he went this direction. But I do hope it does work out for him.
Yeah, and I think RR User and I have the wonderful experience of losing a championship match together, and hopefully this won't be a repeat of that. But I look forward to seeing as we progress through the draft what other O and D infantries come off the board. I know looking at the registration list, there's a lot of talent still out there. As we're waiting for the next pick to come out, is there anybody that's kind of surprised you that's not off the board yet?
I'm a little surprised about Mites not being off the board. I know that might be a little bit controversial. I do think he can help anchor defense really well, actually. So I was more expecting D-infantry to go a little bit earlier. I also think Penguin not being off the board is surprising. Rocky not being off the board is surprising. Yeah, there's quite a few. Worth is another one as well, a D-infantry that plays aggressive. I was expecting him to go a little bit earlier.
And a quick pause. We've got our next selection that came out from Mixum, and Mixum picks Dilatory, one of the better medics in the game. Hearth as probably the best medic in the game currently. What can you tell us about Dilatory? What can you say about his play style, his ability to work alongside a defense? What are your thoughts?
Dilla's a great mix of he's intelligent on medic. He doesn't just go pure aggressive flanks like GT would, for example. He knows he's a little bit more on the passive side in a smart way. Great medic, great pick.
Yeah, I agree. He's a good guy. He communicates well. He wants to contribute to the team and the defense. And overall, while I wasn't expecting supports to go as early as they're going, Dilatory is one of the best ones out there. It's going to be a tremendous partner to Mixum as well, who I presume will be the engineer.
Just to add something on top of this, Rocky is withdrawing from this league as he feels disrespected. Just to let all captains know.
Is that legit?
It is.
No,
It is a Woj bomb. He is upset that he fell to a minimum to the third round.
Well,
Do not select Rocky.
Oddly enough, Flair brings up a wonderful mention earlier about somebody who he was surprised did not get off the board earlier, and that was Mites. Now Decker has selected Mites, like Flair, you said, kind of a controversial pick. Now, Mecca, as somebody who primarily plays offense, I'm sure you've had the opportunity to play against Mites quite a bit here recently. What can you tell us about his play style and, the challenge he is when you're on an offense working against him?
I think he is a really good DM. I think he probably slipped because of chemistry and personality reasons. He kind of tends to go off the handle. But as far as actual skill goes, I think if Flair does end up playing DM, pairing those two together with Tyrael in the back is going to be pretty scary for any offense. I mean, it's pretty clear what Decker's doing so far is he's just trying to stack out that defense.
Yeah, he's clearly going after a lot of the fighters, which will be a huge benefit to him. And but as many people have mentioned, there may be some clashes of personality there. But I know when Mites first made his return, he was very active on Discord, very active on comms, and that's kind of fizzled away. So I'm hoping maybe under Decker's leadership, he can bring Mites back into that fold. And if that's the case, I think Mites will be very difficult to challenge. Speaking of O and D infantries and versatile infantries, the next pick goes to Karatank by Verb. Karatank's another individual that recently came back after being gone for quite some time. He randomly kind of showed up one mixed day, and several people thought it was a fake Karatank, but it turns out it's the real Karatank, former BDS player, former PT player, been around a long time, a very competent OD infantry. Kev, what are your thoughts on Karatank?
He just has a forward button, but at least he'll push it into the base and do turret damage.
He lives up to his name.
Yeah, I think he's kind of being undersold here. He is very aggressive, and I think that's an underrated element in this game is the ability to be aggressive and to push. Because speaking for myself, I'm more of like a passive killing player on defense, and when I'm paired with him, I'm actually able to thrive a little bit. So I think paired with Wolven and their ability to push up together, I de-heavied for these guys the other day in a mix. They played really well together, so I think this is a good pick for Verb.
Yeah, and I think Karatank certainly is a very good O infantry, but I think he shines on defense. I think he's naturally a good D infantry, and it's an excellent pickup. Now, another great pick by Metal is Marduk or Cerrito, another excellent multi-classer who can play a variety of both fighting and support classes when needed. But Cerrito is somebody who has not had a significant amount of CTFPL or CTF organized experience until here recently. Kev or Hearth, what are your thoughts on Cerrito? What can you speak to about his progression over the past couple months and his evolution from being a relatively kind of a talented pub player to a organized play cheerleader.
It's a good infantry. Definitely has the RG aim. Very good there. Good positioning. Good sense of more on offense than defense. Wish he'd give up the flechette rifle, but other than that, solid pick.
Yeah, also very underrated. He's another jack of all trades that's learned how to pick up the class infiltrator. His infantry has improved a lot, along with his O heavy.
Well, we noticed earlier Metal focusing on supports for his first couple picks, and now he's diving into some fighting classes with his next pick being tactical. Tactical is somebody who's been around infantry a long time, primarily plays D heavy, but tactical really cut his teeth in USL. He's won many games there. He's a USL champion. Mecca, as a USL representative and longtime USL player, what can you speak to about tactical both in CTF and USL as well?
Yeah, somebody that saved Ernie from the Chaos Blade experience early in USL. I've been friends with him for a very, very long time. I think he is probably the best heavy in the game. I think him and Tier are 1 and 2. I think that Metal will probably play him O heavy just from my conversations with Metal the other day. He's very high on tacticals O heavy. And he used to play Ripper in SL too. So I think any skirmisher with a big rezo plays heavy. You have Ernie, myself, Colossal Mountain, and I think that's the way to go. And but I do think that he'll end up playing O heavy for this team. And I think if you can surround him with a few imps, I think probably Cerrito is going to play O. So you probably just need a good SL and another OM for 2, and I think Ernie will shine.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's not just about his skill level that kind of separates him from the rest of the crowd. He's a good communicator, and stand by. We've got the next pick by Verb, which is Worth.
Wow, this is quite the defense built up for Worth, and having Iron on offense as well. That's going to be one aggressive defense to play against. You got Carrot Tank, you have Wolven, you have Worth, you have Verb. All very aggressive, all very good players. So I think Verb has built a pretty scary looking team so far.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenging defense, regardless of what kind of offense you run. And even if the offensive players may not be at the same skill level that Verb's able to draft, that defense is so aggressive that on pushouts, on clears, the swings that defense makes to offense will be able to do some pretty significant damage. And Worth is going off the board pretty early, but I think that's a good thing. I think Worth is one of the more underrated players in the game currently. And like Flair, Worth has been around a long time, started his CTF career back in, I believe, either Limitless or Epidemic before moving on to Leviathan and Pure Talent. But he's been around a long time. He's an excellent D-infantry who can also O-infantry as well. Good communicator, good Discord guy, good team member. Excellent pickup by Verb. Now it looks like Decker's got his next selection that's been made.
I have personal interest in this, so I'm hoping that Decker is very wise in his decision.
And Decker picks X5 as that next selection. Another good multi-classer, somebody who's got the ability to kind of fill in anywhere that's needed, who's got experience leading squads in the past. Hearth, like X5, you've been around a long time. What can you share with us about somebody who's a pretty good multi-classer?
X5's biggest strength is he has played the game literally since season 1, so he's just got plenty of built-up experience, just naturally knows what he's supposed to be doing, where he's supposed to go, where he's supposed to be positioned. It's a good pick.
Yeah, he's a good pick too, and I think bringing somebody like X5 onto your team who's got experience leading squads, that's just an additional leadership element that can help out any team he's a part of. And here over the past few months, his activity's been great. I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah, it seems like Decker is kind of going with the theme here with the old Darkslayers crew with Tyrael and X5, and I know Mites is part of that too. So it seems like he's trying to draft for personality and how people mesh together.
Yeah, which is a very important aspect to team composition. It's one thing to get a bunch of skilled players into the room, but you want to make sure they get along as well. Now, speaking of which, Mixum selects somebody he's pretty been close to for a long time, which is Raygun. And all jokes aside, they are not a breakdancer out of Australia. Raygun is Tempest, who's a longtime infiltrator, JT, squad leader, O-infantry. Another good multi-classer. Kev, I know you and Tempest have played together for a long time. What can you tell us about Tempest, another underrated, undervalued player?
He's able to play squad leader, O infantry, Can also engineer, possibly medic. But infill was also his main class back in CTFDL.
Yeah, and I think Tempest is one of those people that are really going to be one to watch throughout this entire draft or throughout this entire draft league. You know, he's somebody who has the ability to fly under the radar, but be a significant impact player on any team that he's on. You know, and nothing's worse than when you're on an offense and it's not going anywhere, and you need to change things up. You know, Temp is one of these people that can contribute as an OIMP on a power offense, switch to infill if needed, switch to JT if needed, and do an excellent job. So Tempest is going to be one to watch. I call it here.
The Dark Bomber, I would like to see him make a more solid pick on board. He's kind of been going off the rails here a little bit. No offense, ZMN, no offense to our user. He definitely needs to pick up a couple more fighting classes. And I know he plays medic. I know ZMN, you play engineer. You guys really need to round out that defense with Shadow.
Yeah, I agree. A good COD infantry would help. However, a strong medic can be a great asset as well, as DB selects Got Salvi. You know, Got Salvi, another strong medic, another top medic in the league. Hearth, you're somebody, just like Dilatory earlier, you're able to lend an ear about, lend a word about. What can you tell us about GT?
If GT could get back to his old potential of being kind of the most successful and ultra aggressive medic, then the offenses have something to fear. I hope he gets back to that state.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you know, GT is going to be an excellent asset to any defense, especially against an offense that may be running a JT or a flag room rush offense. You know, GT's trank aim is very effective. He's a good true support player. He knows when to heal, when to summon, and I think he's going to be a good asset to DB. But like Flare, I think certainly some compliments to Shad's infantry would be a benefit. But you can't go wrong with one of the best medics in the game.
Yeah, I think, Dark Bomber's going to have another pick right away here. And hopefully he's looking at the infantries on the board, either trying to give Shadow some support in that area in terms of a strong partner, or trying to just build a strong offense would be good for him.
And like earlier, we mentioned we believe that round 2 and round 3 we'd start seeing a lot of DMs and OMs come off the board, and we've seen some with maybe 1 or 2 support classes kind of thrown in there as well. Now there's still plenty of support classes that are still on the board that can bring a lot of value. Many come to mind, and I'll be curious as to when some of those might start being called. And we see one now, which is Posey's next selection being Waylander, somebody kind of in the same tier as a Dilatory, as a GT, a very strong medic with significant experience playing with strong defenses. Kev, as somebody who's played against Waylander quite a bit, but as both a O Heavy and a JT, what can you share with us about Waylander and what he brings to a team?
Oh, definitely one of the better medics in this draft, behind Bonds, or if Hearthbull were to be in this draft also. Very solid. Can TB,
Yeah,
clear
but
offenses.
Posty's the one that picked him, and Posty plays medic. So,
But Posty's
what are
also
you
able to
assuming
play.
Way's going to play?
Waylander is also able to play D infantry.
Yeah, Waylander is versatile. He can D-infantry and O-infantry if needed. In a pinch, he can also play squad leader. But it looks like Posey is going to be rounding out all of the support classes, with his next pick being Breakdance, another person who can play all the support classes that exist. Mecca, I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to play against Breakdance. Do you have any thoughts on BD you can share?
I've played against him a few times. I think he's a really good NG. I think he's probably my number 2 under BT. I think he gives a nice offensive presence too. He's one that I've seen swing a couple times when I've been on his team. And the one thing I would say about Waylander too is it reminds me if you're playing fantasy baseball and you pick a guy who plays, second base, third base, shortstop. I don't think it's a bad idea to pick somebody, even though individually skilled DMF he might not be that high, but if you can play DMF and med, I think I understand why Waylander picks. But I think Breakdance is a good pick there too.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Posey too is also kind of a dark horse O heavy. Himself can O heavy. There's not a reliance for Posey to play medic as his primary class. So at the end of the day, Posey's giving himself some options, and I think Breakdance is one of the more classical engineers. Very very heavy miner, has experience playing for Newfie, has experience playing for Monster House and Martyr. Been around a long time, knows what he's doing. I think another good asset to a team. DB's next selection is Scarface, somebody who has not been the most active in CTF, but still been active in USL for quite some time. But it's been around CTF for decades. Flair, what can you tell us about Scarface or Torch?
Oh, I have not played with or against Scarface in a very long time, like back on SOE infantry in CTFPL. I know that he was pretty solid as O infantry back then. I'm not sure how he's evolved in his time in USL, so maybe Mecca might have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean he's a pretty good USLer. He tends to hide a lot, which is kind of funny. But I think from what I remember, he's a pretty good OM. I've played a few mixes with him, and he's got some really good up close aim. I don't know if I would pick him this early. You might be picking him this early based on his name from nostalgia, but I don't think he hurts you. I just think it might be a little early for him here.
Well, his game reminds me of Bale. They are both also good fighters. But if Scarface is active, he can make an impact on a team.
Now, another impact player that's just been taken off the board by Mixum is Axidus. You know, Axidus is primarily known for being a D heavy, really can expand into other classes. Hearth, what are your thoughts on Axidus, both as a D heavy or other classes you may have seen him as?
Exodus is a good heavy overall. It's not going to be the top on either front, but he's great on O, great on D. He plays SL, he plays infantry. He's a good pick for this position in the draft, just in case he can fill a hole that you need.
No, I agree, and I think Axidus is important because he's a dedicated team player. He's going to show. He's going to be there. You know, for a long time, he was solely responsible for the development of CTF-related activities within Free Infantry. He's got excellent institutional knowledge about the game, mechanics, and an excellent skilled player as well. And I think he'll be a great addition a great addition to Mixum as well. And Decker's next selection is Chucky. Flair, I think you've played with Chucky. Before I get to Kev, what are your thoughts?
I think this is actually a pretty good pick. If you kind of look at the way the team's being built out, Decker went defense first, and now he's just looking for a JT offense. And Chucky is the best JT in this draft. So I feel like it's a pretty solid pick. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, as what Flair stated before, he just came back, so it took a while to unfade. But yeah, he is a good JT, and he's only going to get better and better as he keeps playing.
Yeah, I think another important thing to note as well, he's much more flexible than people realize. He can also O-Inf or O-heavy, D-heavy. You can bring back Nurse Chucky and play medic as well. It's a versatile player that knows how to work with the team. He's individually skilled. I was fortunate to have him on Pure Talent for many seasons. And he's a great asset to the team, and Decker is certainly rounding out his team with veteran skilled players. He's doing a great job so far. Now, Verb's next selection, as he's rounding out more good fighting infantries, is Soup, or Supra. Kev, I know you've played with Soup a long time. You guys go back to your disjoint days, and I think Soup was on Azora as well. What can you tell us about Soup, who's been back for a couple months now?
Yeah, another player that's slowly unrusting, but he is also a second DM or a third DM at a D7 base. Struggles at A7 a little bit.
Yeah, you can tell he's much more comfortable playing with a 3D infantry setup. What I like about Soup is he can also, in a pinch, play medic if needed or jump on offense as well. Hearth, do you have any thoughts on Soup or what he can bring to the table as a DM?
Solid DM, passive. Typically, it's not super aggro like Bale or Worth or Kara. Finisher type. Doesn't play Caw. So if you already got someone that really plays the support, can pair with them good chemistry, you should be set.
But like on that note, I think that can actually work for the way that this team is built. They're all ultra aggressive players. Having someone play a bit more passive and clean up, that they can really stat pad. Like they can really thrive in a defense like that.
Who do you put on offense though? Do you put Kara on offense?
Yeah, probably
Woven on
Kara.
offense?
Probably
Kara
Kara on
probably, right?
offense or Wolven on offense. Like either work. They can both play it. I think Verb has the right idea of building up these fighting classes and worrying about supports later.
Yeah, I think Flair's got a good point too, because Verb himself is very versatile as a support class. So at any given time, he can fill in as med, NG, or squad leader. So that gives him some flexibility when he's trying to round out his support classes later on.
Yeah, it's with Metal's pick here, I would like to see him pick up. I know I sound like a broken record, but more fighting classes. There's still fighting class players out there. You got to pick them up before they're all gone. We're gonna have to see in what direction he goes. He does also like he has his supports covered. He needs some solid infantries is what he needs, and not too many left on the board, honestly.
Well, with Metal's next pick, he picks Mugen, another strong multi-classer. Kev, you've played with Mugen for a long time. He is a multi-classer. Is his primary class infantry? What are your thoughts?
I would put him as a DM, if anything, if that's what the captain will pick him as he's like a mediocre squad leader, heavy engineer, or a medic, but he can play it if necessary.
It certainly is a strong asset to a team. And Mecha, as somebody who plays multiple classes yourself between offense and defense, what are your thoughts on Mugen? What do you think the value of a multi-classer is versus kind of a subject matter expert in one class? What are your thoughts and what's the benefits of each?
Yeah, I understand this here. Because Metal already has Bonds as medic, PT as NG.
And we'll do a
so I
quick interruption since you're talking. Congratulations, you are Metal's next pick. So he picked up Mugen and you. So before we talk about
nice.
Mugen, what's your initial reaction to being picked onto Metal's team?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, obviously, I like playing with Ernie. I've played with him in USL for like 20 plus seasons, so that's always nice. I don't know what he's gonna have me play, but obviously that's nice. As far as Mugen, yeah, I think positional versatility is important in this. I think we're underrating that because if you can, if somebody doesn't show, like Bonds doesn't show, BT doesn't show, whatever happens there, they can just slide him in there, or like Kev said, just slide him in as DM and be set there as well.
No, I agree, and I think regarding the Mecha pick itself, I think Mecha is a talented O infantry. He can D infantry if needed, but Mecha really is an effective O heavy, and if he can be paired up with at least one or two solid O infantries, that offense is going to be difficult to play against. Hearth, I know you oftentimes play on defense either as medic or a D infantry. What are your thoughts on Mecha as Metal's second pick this round?
I will say this because I like Mecha. When I see him on offense, I know my turrets will probably be safe, but the walls, woo, they're gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's
Just to add to that, he does shoot the wall maybe 3 out of 5 times occasionally, but then when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, and I think too when you look back in the days of people attempting to play foot JT, I think of Beaver, I think of Fear. Not many people could pull it off, but Mecha is actually an extremely effective OJT, which is something that still, even in this day and age of CTF, is relatively off meta. So that just adds some additional flexibility and versatility that Metal's going to have for his team. That Mecha's not only an OINF, not only an O heavy, but he can foot JT as well.
yeah, foot JT. It's a special thing. So, but next pick is in.
Next pick by Verb is Kaiser or Kaiser. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but somebody who lives overseas, over in Europe, but an excellent infantry in heavy. Flair, what are your thoughts on Kaiser and the value he might bring to Verb's already fairly strong team full of fighters?
Yeah, I played with Kaiser back in the day on Phoenix Down. He's a very solid O infantry. He has that leg that every captain is going to want on their team, especially when it comes to 10-man. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory way. You want that person that can just eat a little extra more, and Keiser's that guy. And he has pretty good instincts for an O infantry as well. So looking at the team, having Iron and Keiser and potentially either Ejective or, sorry, Wolven or Horror Tank as the O infantries, Verber's probably just going to look to round out the power offense by picking up a no heavy. A couple good ones on the board here. We'll see what he does next time around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Just to say, if Keys were more active, he would have gone up higher in this draft. His stock may have dropped only because he does have to work late sometimes, and you only get 7 minutes or less before he has to quit and get replaced.
And a brief pause because we've got our next selection on the board. Keeping it with the theme of Europe, we've got Decker selecting Amok, or as I say, Amok. Another great medic off the board. Somebody whoever may have some participation or attendance issues considering time zones, but Hearth, I love going to you for medic feedback and thoughts. What can you say about Amok?
I like Amok. Again, he hasn't been active recently, but I know because of the time zone and his job and all that. Before that, he's been solid. Also, assuming that he's sober, which kind of puts an asterisk next to it.
Muck certainly is somebody who likes to have a good time, but sober or not, he's a very talented medic. He's an excellent team player, and as much as he likes to joke around, he's somebody who does take it pretty seriously. He truly is a good competitor and an excellent teammate.
Yeah, just to add on to Amok, also a late pick would have gone higher due to time zones, but he is one of the top medics also, but he has a tendency to get his team cleared if he goes to offense.
Yeah, looking at the defense he's on, though, I feel like having that aggressive element is going to be good for the players that he's surrounded with. So, not too concerned about Amok. Hoping that he unfades a little bit.
And we have the classic Silly Wanker custom Summon Me Amok macro be on display.
Or Amok.
Now, as we're waiting for Dark Bomber's next team, for those on the stream, I'm going to pull up the roster that Dark Bomber's currently got up right now. You'll notice that Dark Bomber certainly is in need of some fighting classes, and it looks like Dark Bomber's the first to pull a traditional USL player into the draft league with the selection of Nos. Mecca, you are our USL liaison and expert. What can you tell us about Nos, and will his skill set translate to CTF?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think Nos is really good in EOL. He's really good in combined arms. He's really good in USL. And I think anybody who's good in other zones can learn this zone pretty quickly. So with the right direction, I think I would put him as O infantry and just kind of have him in that iron role, just to dodge everything, stay alive forever, hit RGs, and you can kind of just focus your offense around that because I think he has the potential to be one of the top O infantries in this draft league.
Yeah, I think Nos is a very good pick here. I had him as a sleeper pick in this draft. Um, I think it. I think that's a very good pick for a Dark Bomber, one of the better ones of his draft so far.
Yeah, and I think as somebody who's going to be playing alongside Nos, I'm looking forward to doing that and working with him and seeing what he can do. When we look at so many USO players who have successfully crossed over into CTF, there's quite a few, and I'm looking forward to Nos rising above the ranks of other USL players turned CTF. And like you all, I think he's going to bring a lot of value to DB's team as well.
So I think we may have missed Mixum's pick. I don't have a pick after Exodus for him. Is that correct?
Yeah, it slipped and there was no team announcement. He picked Andro.
He picked Andrew. Okay.
Okay, very good. Somehow that must have got mixed, but we do certainly want to pay respect to Andro, who's somebody who is a quality O and D infantry, certainly with Ka on defense, and somebody who's also got the flexibility and versatility to be a 10-man O and D infill. Kev, you've played with Andro quite a bit. What are your thoughts?
Just like the others, his stock kind of dropped, just like we just forgot to draft him also. But he can play a DM, an OM, and 10-man infill.
And I think too, Andro is dependable. He's going to be there. He's going to be active. While he doesn't talk very much on Discord, he's always going to be listening. He's always paying attention. He's always got his head in the game, and he's an overall great teammate who's got some versatility as well. Now, as we're waiting for Decker's selection to come through, and I'm reviewing the roster that he's got so far: Tyrael, Flare, Mites, X5, Chucky, Amok, himself as engineer. That alone would be an excellent defense that could compete with the best of the best. At some point, he's going to have to start looking at. I thought Decker was next.
No, it was Posty. He's doing
It
back
would be
to back.
Posty.
Oh, my apologies. Well, we will revisit that, but Posty's next pick is Jewett. And Jewett is a solid D infantry. He can also play squad leader and O infantry. And before I pass this off to Flair for some additional words of wisdom regarding Jewett, I think Jewett deserves a humongous thank you and applause. Jewett was the one who developed our mock draft generator for this year's CTFDL. We want to make sure we say thank you, Jewett, and great job. And Flair, we see the next pick is also Chompy. Give us some feedback on both Jewett and Chompy.
Yeah, happy to do so. So I haven't seen Jewett until I returned recently, and I played with him a little bit from the time that I came back until now. He's improved significantly. He messages me all the time, just with little caveats, like things that he picks up that maybe I do and he has questions about. He's very eager to learn, and he's improving at an exponential rate. Also, his squad leader is pretty solid now too, and he's learning that. For Chompy, man, I think Chompy could potentially be the steal of the draft. I'm pretty high on Chompy. I think if you slap this guy on offense, he's going to do a lot of damage. He is eager to learn. I'm not so sure that Chompy has the support around him on this team, but he does have Sov. I think that definitely, if I'm Sov, I lean on Chompy quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Chompy's got the potential to be a dark horse in this CTFDL. While he is somebody who's new, he's also proven to be very moldable, and he wants to improve. He wants to get better. He responds to feedback very quickly, and I think Chompy, kind of like Tempest earlier on, Chompy's gonna be one to watch.
Also nicknamed Big Chomp. Just
Yeah,
ran
the
to
big-
this.
He
the
likes
big
If I could
champ.
weigh in real quick too, I think that Chompy and Nos are very similar. I think they're going to come in both. By the end of this draft, I think the opinion on them is going to completely change, and the next time we do a draft, they'll both be way higher.
It looks like DB's next pick is in, and you're starting to see a little bit of a theme here. His next pick is Penguin, or Frank, or Woots, however you choose to know him. Flair, I think you or Hearthbull may have had the opportunity to play with Frank back in the day. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on Penguin? What does he bring to the table? He's been fairly active for several months now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Penguin. When I first came into the league, he's one of the first people I connected with. We've always gotten along. We played on Martyr together. We were on Lesbian Cabbage together in CTFX. Played on Tactical Destruction teams. I'm pretty high on Frank here. I'm not sure about his activity. I do know that he definitely has the knowledge and the potential to make a big impact as an O infantry. What do you think, Hearth?
Frank is the nicest person. He's too nice to play this game with the rest of us shitters.
Right.
As an infantry, though, yeah, I've played a lot of X with him, PO with him. Solid player.
Yeah, solid player, and like her said, he is a very nice guy, but that can lend to being an excellent teammate in what can sometimes be a somewhat emotional game for people. So having that level-headed, doesn't get rattled OIMF that knows how to play is a pretty big benefit.
Oh, next selection's been made.
So now I'll continue that conversation regarding Mixum and his roster as it is bearing out, and he picks Rosary, or as many people know as Rue or Fenris. Mecca, I know you've had the opportunity to play with Rue when he was a squad leader, and you've been on offense. What can you tell us about Rue? What does he bring to the table, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Rue's a good player. I don't know if he plays DM for SL for this team. I guess it kind of depends where you play Tempest. You might play him SL as well, but I think Rue's probably best spot as DM. He's really hard to kill. If you pair him with another good DM too, he shines. If he's your best DM, you might have a little bit of trouble, but I think if they pick another one up, they're good. And having Exodus D heavy behind him is going to help a lot too. And then Dilla and Mixum behind him as well. So I think he could shine, but I think he's probably going to end up being their best DM on this team.
So you have him as DM, not squad leader?
I think so because they don't have any other DMs on that team so far.
Yeah,
so I think
it's
probably have
almost
to
out
slot
of
him there.
it's almost out of necessity. Quickly, perusing through Mixum's team, Jay, Jackie, Dilatory, Tempest, Exodus, Andro, Rue. Mecca is right. There's not a significant amount of D-infantries on the team now. There's not a significant amount of D-infantries that are primarily play DIMF that are still on the board. So Rue may be in one of these positions where, given the match dynamics, he could have to fill in at a variety of different positions, including DIMF.
Okay, next pick is in. Decker chose Colossal. I know Colossal is a USL player, so what are your thoughts on that, Mecca?
Yeah, Jeff Colossal. He's been playing forever too. He used to play a lot of EL too. Anytime there's an S carrier who's also played other zones, I think it tends to translate in CTF as well. He's also another member of the huge Rezo played Ripper and SL club with a lot of the other SK heavies. So I think you can play Colossal. I think you probably start him O heavy, but I think he can D heavy as well. Looking at the team, I'm assuming he's going to O heavy. So I don't know if they're going to do a O heavy JT mix with Chucky Colossal. I think he's kind of a steal. I think he's a really good player going this late.
I
Okay,
honestly think you
interesting.
should play him as an heavy, like you were saying.
Okay, interesting. No, I don't know too much about Colossal. I think I've seen him in pub a couple times. I was pretty impressed with his heavy in pub, but it's always kind of hard to tell, right?
Oh, sure. Now, and Colossal did spent a brief amount of time on Pure Talent many years ago. He then switched over to CKY, and he was
Yeah.
effective as both an OINF and an O heavy on both the squads. And he's somebody that's also pretty reliable and fairly active. So I think he'll be a pretty big benefit to any team, considering activity is going to be of the utmost importance. What I think is an excellent pick, another dark horse, is Earthworm Jim, chosen by Verb. Somebody who can help round out that offense. Kev, you were vital in Jim's return to infantry and introduction into organized play. I think you've been able to see Jim's evolution over the past several months. What can you tell us about Jim?
Yeah, when Jim first came back, it's always difficult for newer players that are trying to integrate to this type of play style. He understood, got better and better. It took a while. You always have to get destroyed before getting better. But yeah, he is a solid O infantry and also a learning squad leader.
And Flair, one
And
thing
he
I
might
think
be one of the laggers, but then he's still going to provide enough support on offense.
and that's exactly what I was going to say. Flair, you often talk about people having the right lag that a captain might want or a squad might want. Can you speak to that and how effective yet non-abusive that can be?
Yeah, so it can be effective, especially if you're leading a push on a 10-man. If you just randomly ignore an infil's rep and you kill him, that can absolutely break open a 10-man. You eat an RT, that breaks open a 10-man. I don't think Jim recognizes how aggressive that he can truly be yet and get away with it. So I would like to see him be a bit more aggressive. I think he has the right support on Verb's team here, looking at the type of players he's drafted. Uh, the one thing I will say about Verb's team so far is I don't feel like they have a leader yet on offense.
Yeah, he's certainly missing some of the more vocal types. Both Jim does have a mic, Iron does have a mic, but they're not the most vocal when it comes to leading an offense. They're vocal in the sense that they will respond, they will answer questions, they will have conversations, but certainly unlike the defense, the offense could be lacking that vocal leader. But I think what's an excellent choice about Jim is he is alongside other significant infantries that I think he'll complement very well.
There's been a couple picks that came in since then as well.
Yeah, they weren't announced, so we're just waiting for the announcements on them. But for metal, I don't know what the picks are yet. I'm not spoiling for myself. Um, I did say that he needs to pick up a couple D infantries. I think his offense is kind of taking shape here. His defense has really good supports with BT and Bonds. Has Ernie as their D heavy, which I think was a great pick. So I would like to see a couple complimentary picks picked up by Metal here to help him out.
Yeah, there's some clarification going on in the draft channel, but looks like it's coming through now.
Yeah, and as we do a recap of Metal's roster, Bonds, BT, Marduk, Tactical, Mugen, Mecha. We've got some strong players, still could benefit from additional fighters, kind of like Flair mentioned earlier. And while Metal did have the benefit of being a fighter himself, one of the only captains whose primary class is a fighting class, he probably still would benefit from introducing more fighters onto the team. And with that, he announces his next pick as Ghost Bonner, somebody who is been active in the game of infantry for quite some time. CTF is not always his first choice in the zone he likes to play. But Hearth GB's been around a long time. You've been around a long time. I don't know if you all have ever had the opportunity to squad together, but what can you tell us about Ghost Bomber?
I've played with him mostly in pub recently. I feel like he hasn't been that active in OVD or mixes. A couple of times he's an okay infantry. I mean, it's what he needs is infantries at this point. He's serviceable.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's somebody who can fill in as an O infantry, a D infantry, work alongside other skilled players. Flair, what are your thoughts on GB?
I think GB's a solid pick. His activity is kind of in question here. I think he does kind of fill that need of like an experienced infantry on this team. He is an O infantry, so that more leans a different direction than what I was saying. And with that said as well, he picked up Chev Rising with his second back-to-back pick. Um, with Chev, I feel like Chev kind of trolls a little bit in pub, but he does have some ability to step up and play beyond what he kind of shows. So I think with this team and the strong supports that they have, if you put him as D infantry, uh, you can maybe see some improvement there. But I think once again, Chev might just be an offensive pick for them. So still not seeing those defensive picks from Metal that I would like to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarity between Chev and Mugen in the sense that they can almost play any class and kind of be plugged in anywhere you need them. In terms of Chev's evolution, I think he's improved quite a bit over the years, and I think here recently with the introduction of him getting more involved in Discord and listening to coordination on either offense or defense has been a significant benefit to his gameplay. But Chev is certainly somebody that could surprise you and be an excellent third D infantry at D6 or A5. And he's also known to O heavy. He can play medic or squad leader or engineer in a pinch as well. And another strong multi-classer that can fill in a lot of gaps that need to be filled.
Okay, it looks like waiting for Verb's pick here. Selection has been made. Who would What do you guys think that Verb needs going on his team? What do you think, Kev?
A heavy, a
Needs
D heavy, or O heavy.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he got with his next selection being Baza. Somebody like Jim from Australia has some of that Australian lag, has shown quite a bit of development over the past several months. Mecca, you're very familiar with the class of O heavy, D heavy. Have you had the chance to see Baza play, and what can you tell us about him?
Yeah, I have. I think he's improved greatly too. Same with USL. He just started playing USL a couple seasons ago, and despite his lag, he's improved quite a lot. I do like the pick here. The only thing I would say is that I don't think they have a medic yet, and there's
Yeah,
not a lot of medics on the board. So I don't think Boz is a bad pick at this number. I just think on this team, I think you probably wanted to go medic here.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Go
yeah.
ahead, Flair. Go ahead, Flair.
I was gonna say I don't disagree. Looking at their current roster, the only player you could put Iron as medic, but that's kind of wasting him. Uh, you also have Soup that can maybe play medic.
Carrot tank medics too, right? Didn't he use the medic back in the day?
Yeah, Deckard's pick is now in though.
And Decker chooses another support class getting off the board. That's Captain Axe, longtime squad leader who can also dabble in the class with the class of medic and OD infantry. Deckard kind of maintaining that theme of not just veteran skilled players, but a lot of Dark Slayers players. Hearth, what are your thoughts on the Captain Axe pick, one squad leader to another?
Honestly, I don't remember him, so I can't go one way or the other.
Sure.
His style's a little more aggressive. Sorry to interrupt. Captain Axe plays a more aggressive type TB style. Like he will risk the blink to go for clears or end up getting their own team cleared.
He
High
certainly
risk,
is
high reward.
he certainly is a high risk, high reward player, and sometimes some of the plays can result in getting an offense cleared, but sometimes it can result in an outstanding game changing play. But what I like about Captain Axe is he is a good team player. He's very vocal on Discord, and he's somebody that's going to mesh really well with the variety of personalities on Decker's team.
But he's not active. When's the last time anyone's seen him play?
Yeah, he's not active. So
That's a good point. He is active playing some other games currently, and hopefully, especially with some of the teammates on the team, that'll encourage him to be a little bit more active. But as that's mentioned, we have the next pick from Mixum, and Mixum was kind enough to pick his own brother, Planner. Just like Mixum, multi-classer, primarily support classes. Kev, you've known the Mixum brothers for a long time, both in game and in person. What can you tell us about Planner? What kind of feedback can you provide about that pick?
Similar play style to his brother, but he mains squad leader more than an engineer. But he can also support as a medic if needed.
Yeah, and for people who may not recognize the alias Planner, he played as Juan, WA WN and performer in previous iterations of CTF organized play. He's a strong multi-classer, and most importantly, he's a good person, level-headed, very, very hard to rattle, and a great player to have in a team that can fill a variety of roles. And I think Planner also deserves a shout-out. While these haven't been fully announced yet, Planner is one of the refs for this year's CTFDL and a moderator in CTF, so we greatly appreciate what he brings to the table and his willingness to contribute and help make this league and zone a success. Now, DB with his next selection is picking Jaguar, also known as Space Monkey. You know, Jag is another person who I would qualify as a multi-classer. He can play a variety of classes and kind of fill in as needed. Mecca, what's been your observations from Jaguar, either playing against him or playing alongside him?
I think Jag probably fits in this team as SL, which, taking him this late as basically your 10th or 9th starter, I think is not a bad idea. I think all the other SLs are off the board too. So getting Jag as a serviceable SL this late, I think is huge, because if they didn't pick him here, I don't know who else SLs as a main. So I think necessity wise, it's a great pick. He's a little slow at summoning, but other than that, I mean, he stays alive. He doesn't have that issue. So if he can manage his loads, I think that Jag will be good for this team.
The
No,
summoning, the slow summoning might have to do with his mouse settings, as he might accidentally summon 2 players, which causes a load.
Yeah, because he can't scroll more than 1 player at a time. I don't know. This guy needs a new computer or something.
Oh, he doesn't use page up, page down. He uses mouse wheel.
Maybe on
Yeah.
maybe on 7th Plague we'll pass the hat and make that happen. But Postie's first back-to-back pick is the Mountain, somebody who I've had the pleasure of playing with on PT during our championship season. Somebody who's a very good D heavy, somebody who can O heavy, and also somebody who can dabble with squad leader. Mecca, I would imagine you've played either with or against the Mountain or CV or SV or Y for quite some time. What can you tell us about the Mountain?
Yeah, another good player, really good in soccer brawl, pretty good EL player. He's been top USL player the past couple seasons. Very vocal in USL. I don't know if he will be on this team, but him and Sav have a friendship that they've had for quite a while too. I think the only reason I don't know about Mountain here is that his primary class is O heavy. I mean, I guess you switch him to D heavy because I think Posty or Sav is probably gonna play O heavy. So I don't know where he kind of fits in. If you have him as D heavy, it's a pretty stacked defense, I think. I don't know really where he ends up. I think he's probably a better D heavy now that I think about it. But he's a good player. He'll learn a lot, and under Sav's tutelage, he'll turn out to be pretty good.
And then I think of, speaking of D, somebody I primarily consider to be a D infantry. Posty's rounding out his second pick this round with Vin Easel, somebody who can COD D infantry, O infantry. Kev, I think you've been around for when Vin started becoming a little bit more active in CTF and certainly organized play. Can you speak to his evolution or his progression, and what can you tell us?
Yeah, just another public player that caught on to this type of gameplay. A very solid DM. May go AFK mid game doing the DoorDash deliveries, but he's a solid player.
It's a classic and accurate, so I certainly understand that. But I do think Vin's got a lot of potential. He listens well. He's active on Discord, and as silly as this might sound, I think he genuinely cares about his team's success. He's got a competitive spirit, and like Tempest, like Vin is a dark horse to watch in this league this season. Now, DP with his next selection, kind of keeping the theme of tapping into some of that older, skilled veteran talent, selects Ag, somebody who's known for being an excellent dueler, a strong O infantry, somebody who can D infantry. Flair, you played with Ag going back all the way to season 6 of Pure Talent. Maybe y'all's paths have crossed since then. What can you tell us about Ag?
He's just a really good individual fighter. I always felt like in a duel, he's very hard to beat. He always seemed to get that edge on you. But in organized play, he always just seemed to lack that edge. Not sure why. And I do think he's having some technical issues as well. He's currently playing on like a 640 by 480 Rezo. I'm not sure if Dark Bomber knew that. But I think if he does fix his technical issues, he does add to the fighting core of this team. So it could potentially be very good. How do you feel that this team is rounding out those ZMN?
Certainly I think the team's got a lot of good players, and we're possibly lacking in a little bit in great players. But I do think the benefit here is the vast majority of people on Seventh Play with playing alongside Dark Bomber, they're active on Discord. They speak, they coordinate. So I think the ability to be able to communicate, accept feedback from one another, learn from each other. I think that's going to be the biggest benefit that Seventh Plague has. And when I look at some of the other rosters, and you've got some people that it's like pulling teeth to get them on Discord, much less actively listening on Discord. I think Seventh Plague is going to be a little bit different, where everybody's going to be able to contribute in one way or the other when it comes to comms, and I really could foresee that being a difference maker as the league plays out.
Oh, looks like Mixum got his pick in. Looks like he picked RBZ. So RBZ, in my experience, he is Car Tank's real life friend, something like that. Uh, been pretty solid as infantry, has a lot of learning to do. Kev, have you had an opportunity to watch RBZ develop and play?
Yeah, I mean, he's learning from scratch. He's only going to get better.
Yeah,
Also,
I think
this has a forward button, but it
Mhm.
just takes time to get better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think RBZ is another dark horse. He's up and coming. He, while he primarily gets picked for offense, I really think he's naturally more of a D infantry. I've had the luxury of playing on him, playing with him on defense for several OVDs and mixes. And while he's a very competent O infantry, I actually think his calling is D infantry. So I do think it would be smart to consider some playtime for RBZ on defense, especially rounding out a good 3DMF defense, and see what he can accomplish there.
I think he's going to have to play defense on this team, right? A DMF as well. I mean, I guess maybe you put Andro there, but some sort of
think it's-
combination of that.
I think it's very likely, and I think the next pick by Decker is not a huge surprise. His selection is Power, somebody who's played for a very long time, played on some of the best squads in the game, including Camp Chaos back in Season 7, as both a medic and an infantry. And while Power wasn't the most active person later on in the years of CTFPL, he's always kind of been around, kind of been indirectly associated with the game, and I know he's been excited to come back. Hearth, you were somebody who was on Camp Chaos back in Season 7. Power was on there. I believe he was your understudy as a backup medic. What can you say about Power, and what do you think he brings to the table of what is already a pretty stacked team that Decker's got?
I'm looking at Decker's roster right now. Seems like a good pick. He can just plays infantry, plays medic. Again, not top tier. He's not active. At least I haven't seen him recently. So it'll be interesting to see what skill level he's at whenever he actually does play. But looking at the roster, it fits the theme that Decker's going with.
And I do think one thing that Decker may be struggling with is, and you kind of touched on it a second ago, is activity. With Amok being overseas and some time zones sometimes being a concern. Captain Axe, who's been relatively MIA, even though he did take the steps necessary to register, and Power's kind of hit or miss activity as well. It'll be interesting to see if Decker can pull off high activity from some of these skilled players. Um, but if he's not, he's really going to end up relying on who he selects in the second half of the draft to be in constant starting position. So I think activity is going to be something that's going to be a major difference maker for Decker in either direction. Flair, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's my main concern looking at this roster. It's you do have some good active players on it, but there's a lot of question marks as well. Like I have no idea if Power is going to show up, no idea if Captain Axe is going to show up. Uh, Even if they do show up, you know, as a player that has returned recently, it takes a little bit of time to get back into it. So even if they do come back and they are active, they're just going to be a little bit behind unless the dedication is kind of behind there.
Yep, I agree. And with Verb's pick being up next, certainly Verb's one of these people who, one of these captains who have really focused on fighting classes to kind of start off. Mecca, as you review Verb's roster, what class is he in need of, do you think, currently?
Still a medic unless Kara tank is good at medic. Um, I don't know why he'd pick anything but that. And SL too. I mean, I guess Kaiser could SL. I know Jim has been playing SL too. Maybe Verb SLs, but he doesn't have another NG on the team. So I would probably go SL or medic here if I were him.
And his next selection is, in fact, not either of those. It is a D-Infantry Billy, or Billet, who primarily plays COD D-Infantry. And Billy's another up-and-comer, somebody who's relatively new to organized play in CTF. But every time he plays, I think he gets better and better. He's open to constructive feedback, constructive criticism, and he's got a competitive spirit as well. He wants to win. He wants to improve. And ultimately, he's a good team player. But Mecca, like you mentioned, there could be a little bit of a lack in support classes for Verb's team. Hearth, as a primarily support player yourself, what do you think Verb's strategy is? And do you think he's going to take one of these primary infantries and make him off class to play medic?
I'm just curious why everyone thinks he doesn't have support classes. Iron plays support, Soup plays medic, Jim plays SL, Verb plays engineer, SL or medic. He has the tools there to fit he can make it work with
Yeah, but
actually
playing
decent
Iron,
players.
anything else in infantry as your number, is that I have a pick with
I
the
wouldn't
silly.
do it, but that's why he's got Soup. That's why he's got Jim. That's why he's got himself. Plus other picks coming down the line. He can make it work and still leave Iron as infantry.
And if that is the strategy, it's smart because while he might be playing one of these, primary infantries off class to the class of medic, at the same time, he denied other teams the opportunity to pick those infantry. So certainly that's got a lot of strategic value with his picks as well. And with Metal, who we've seen take several support classes already off the board, selects another one in Abith, who is another strong multi-classer, can play all of the support classes, medic, squad leader, and engineer. I think Abith primarily shines to the class of squad leader, but certainly a very capable medic and engineer as well. And a quick shout out before I pass it off to Kev to give some thoughts on Abith. We want to thank Abith for volunteering to be the in-game arena message announcer, facilitator, scheduler. So Abith, thank you so much for all your help with that. Kev, I think you've had the opportunity to play with Abith or Green Ketchup back in the day in pub. What can you tell us?
Yeah, a very long time veteran player, plays squad leader, like a really good support class player. Just needs to unfade.
Yeah, I agree. And if Abbott's able to get in some play time between now and the first round of matches, I think Abbott can be a significant contributor, especially going this late in the draft. Now, Metal makes the other selection of Infinite, who is really only plays engineer, can kind of dabble with squad leader, and some people might even call Infinite kind of a controversial pick, but nonetheless, he's active. He knows how to engineer. He's a mining god. He knows how to make sure the medic has Solvi, that the turrets are either up or rebuilt. Flair, what can you tell us about Infinite? What's your feedback, and how much value do you think he brings to Metal's team?
I will say I think Infinite is maybe the biggest troll in this game, but I'm also one of his biggest fans. I think the way that he plays engineer can be very frustrating for a defense because he's not really EBing for you. He's mostly coming home, laying down mines, and then he's off mining in the caves. But when the offense comes in and takes down 2 MGs and an RT, and then your defense pushes them out and he instantly rebuilds them, that can be very demoralizing for any offense. I'm a big fan of Infinite. I think this is a sleeper pick in the draft, and it shouldn't be. He should have been picked earlier.
You really have him playing engineer over BT?
I have BT playing. If you put BT on infantry, he's a good infantry. Why wouldn't you put him on a fighting class? Make Infinite play engineer. Put BT on a class where he can make a really big impact.
And Flair brings up a good point too, because the BT pick, while it makes it look like he's being picked as a primary engineer, Infinite is somebody who could start as engineer for almost any squad. And Metal had the opportunity to deny the pick of BT to somebody else. So I think strategically it was a good pick considering the versatility of BT and the fact that you can get a quality starting engineer so late in the draft that can contribute to any defense. Now, Verb's next selection, I know as we were talking about support classes on Verb's team, he selects Gun Girl, somebody who is relatively new to not just CTF, not just organized play, but to the game infantry. Kev, I know you were vital in helping Gun Girl get trained and learn how to kind of adapt to the play style and the game. what can you speak to about Gun Girl and her development and progression over the past several months?
I'm actually going to deflect this over to Hearthbull as he is the medic and he can analyze this better than I can. Go ahead, Hearth.
For as little time as she's played the game, it sucks for her that she picked medic, which is one of the most demanding classes to play. I hope with the right amount of coaching that she improves. Like the biggest step would be stop playing the preset class, actually play the real class and use buy macros. So I have hope. I hope to be pleasantly surprised by her progress during this league.
Well, I do think, and before we talk about the next pick, I do think it's important to point out the fact that I've never seen as many people progress as fast as Gun Girl has progressed, and similar to the conversation about Billy earlier, I feel like every OVD or mix that she plays, there's an obvious increase there, and then most importantly, she's a pleasant personality and a good team member that I think will mesh well with the personalities on there. But with that being said, Decker picks what I also believe to be another dark horse in this draft league, and that's Sabotage, another strong USL player making that conversion over to CTF. Mecca, what can you tell about Sabotage, and will his skill set translate to CTF? And what have your observations been so far?
Yeah, I think Sabotage is greatly improved here too. He's a really good USL player. Again, another part of the huge Rezo played Ripper, now plays heavy in CTF. I think it's just such a natural transition. The only thing I would say is I don't know where he ends up because you have Tyrael D heavy and you already have Colossal O heavy. I know you could probably switch Colossal to infantry or Sabotage to infantry, and they'll both be fine. I think they're probably interchangeable, so it might just be come down to what's working, what's not. But I think Sabotage is a steal. Some of the players who just went above Sabotage, and it might just be a need or necessity thing, I think is crazy. I think Sabo should have went way earlier, just based on skill alone.
Now, if we're going to take Sabotage name out of it and just look at Decker's team composition, you point out the fact that there's already some heavy weapons power on the team. What class do you think would have been more beneficial for Decker to have gone after rather than another OD heavy?
Looks like a D inf, I think, because they have Amok, Tyr, Flare, and Mites on D, but everybody else kind of offenses. I guess you could slide X5 or Power over to D inf, maybe Colossal, maybe Sabotage. I don't know who DMs. So you have a pool to select, but I don't think they have a solid third DM for behind those two.
Now, I would even argue that Decker could benefit from some O infantries as well. Most of that talent's can be relegated to defense, and some offensive infantry support could help. Now, Mix and Mix's next selection with Mystic Gohan, another strong newer player to organize play in CTFPL or CTFDL. Somebody who can O infantry, D infantry, D heavy, good personality. Kev, do you have any thoughts on Mystic Gohan?
Yeah, he's a pretty good O heavy. He's also learning CTFPL, but he was primarily a public player.
He played like public in CTF or a different zone?
CTF throughout.
Okay, and he plays O heavy.
He plays O heavy. He also plays O inf.
Okay.
And I also put Mystic into the category of people that want to learn. So if you've got some advice or tips to provide him, he's going to respond accordingly and try to execute on those things. So not just an upcoming player, but a good teammate as well. With the next selection from Dark Bomber, he chooses Kyloff, somebody who is another person who's kind of dabbled in CTF organized play, somebody who's primarily played, known for playing pub, can O and D infantry. Hearth, I believe we were just talking about Kyloff the other day. What can you tell us about Kyloff, and what's your assessment?
He's an infantry and he's got lag, so
Yeah.
he's good.
Yeah, he's a huge lagger. He definitely lags a lot. So that just means he'll eat a lot, and he actually lands a lot of COD when he plays COD infantry. I think it's a pretty solid pick for Dark Bomber, helping out his defense here, helping out Shadow, and Shadow needs a lot of help on his defense.
His instant is also insane, probably because of the lag. But when he instant rushes you, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah, and I kind of think partnering with Shadow on defense is probably where Kyloff would best be a good fit. Kyloff can certainly play O infantry, but I think with that with that laggy ability and his ability to both SG and CAW, I think partnering with Shadow could be a good opportunity for a DB to take advantage of. Now, Posty making another selection for my primary USL player. We've got Yosh, somebody who's just a all-around good person, a good O-heavy, somebody who's actively participating in CTF here recently, but certainly a legend in USL. Mecca, I would imagine you've played with Yosh for quite some time. What can you tell us about him? How does his skill set translate to CTF?
Yeah, Yosh again. He's on my USL squad currently. We've played and won a bunch of championships together. Also, another guy who's played EOL. I don't think he'll heavy. I think he'll probably end up playing infantry, and I think him and Sav are pretty close, so that's probably why he gets picked here. Maybe some people think it's a little early, but I think on potential wise, I think he'll be good. Another Mouser. He plays a lot of other games, FPS and stuff, so I think he'll be good. And under Sav's tutelage, I think, and he'll end up being a really good steal at this late in the draft.
Yeah, Yosh used to be, and still is, a good friend of mine. Played with him quite a bit. I think he may have been on Canucks at one point. Um, he's a smart player, and he's going to do whatever you tell him that he needs to do, as long as you can explain it to him. I think he has a pretty close connection with Saab, so this is a good fit for him.
Posty keeping it with USL players. We've got Posty's next selection being Pister, somebody who not many people realize is a CTFPL champion from Season 8 Squad Smurfs. Pister cut his teeth in CTFPL back in the day before making what looks to be a full-time transition to USL. Mecca, I know Pister's got experience both leading squads in USL, I believe having some success in USL as well. What can you tell us about Pister's experience in USL, and do you think he'll be able to unrush to the point to where he's able to contribute at the CTF level?
I think so. I mean, he's a pretty decent USL player as well. Played with Sov all these years, so I think that's another Sov pick. Sov and Posty probably organizing the pick there, so that's probably why they're him and Yosh too. Yosh and Pister are friends as well. I don't know if he's gonna unrust. I don't think I've seen him on spec and maybe one OVT even. I know he's been in spec a few times, but I haven't seen him play, so I don't know. I know he played CTF back in the day, but I don't have much experience with him and back in the day. So I think it will translate just because Sov can coach him up, and he's a good mouser. So I think if you can mouse and you're in CTF, you'll be okay. The only thing I would say is he also has like a 3K reso. So if he wants to play infantry, probably has to bring that down a little bit. That would be his only roadblock.
And it looks like Dark Bomber's next selection is Head, somebody who's been around infantry a long time, took a little bit of a hiatus for, I don't know, only 10 years or so. But Head is somebody who's been on some of the greatest squads that's ever been around, BDS, pure talent, of course, and Cook. And Head's been a mainstay in infantry in CTFPL for many years, many seasons, of a former CTFPL administrator as well. Head is somebody who back in the day could play a variety of classes, both JT, infill, heavy, engineer. I know while Head's less interested in unfading his engineer, he still plays a lot of classes that can make him quite valuable for any team. Flair or Hearth, somebody who I believe played with Head back in the day. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember one of my first impressions of Head was about how versatile of a player that he was. Now that he's coming back, I'm not sure if that versatility will still be there. I know that he's probably going to be best off focusing on one class. I think I know what class he wants to play. I think he wants to play foot JT. If the offense is kind of built around that, I can definitely see it working. And I think on Dark Bomber's team, he's going to have an opportunity to do so. Oh, and mix him with the sleeper pick, Mike Jones, New York
Yeah.
Mike Jones.
Another up-and-comer, somebody who primarily cut their teeth playing pub play for many, many years and is just now transitioning to organized play on a routine basis. New York Jones is somebody who can play OM infantry. I think he could even squad leader if he needed to. Kev, what are your thoughts on Mike Jones, and where do you think he's going to fit on Mixum's team?
Likely to be on offense. But yeah, he's also another player that transitioned over to PL. Solid OM, part of the single dragon team.
Yeah, the thing I will say about Mike Jones is we made him play infantry for a very difficult offense known as the Single Dragon, and he nailed it. He actually carried us through it. So he's one of my sleeper picks for this draft. That's a good pickup for Mixum.
And Decker's next selection is Plaps. You know, again, keeping up with this theme of some skilled veteran players. Plaps been around a long time, primarily playing for BDS as a starting engineer. Flair, Plaps, excellent engineer, kind of from that traditional classic style of engineer where it's a heavy focus on mining and fighting more on a case-by-case strategic basis. But what can you tell us about Plaps, and what do you think his spot's going to be on Decker squad?
Yeah, so with Plaps, I played with him for a long time. Plaps absolutely carried us so many times as engineer on BDS. Like it wasn't even funny how many games that we messed up early, we lost everything, and he came back and carried us. Bad deaths, everything. He was just a giant anchor for that team and very trusted. Coming back from inactivity, I'm not sure if he'll be able to reach that same point with such a short turnover before the draft league starts. Like I mentioned before, when you come back, you're a little bit rusty. You're not doing things the same. But Plaps, if this was back in the day, Plaps would have gone way earlier in this draft. What are your thoughts, Hearthbull?
Again, I agree. He was a solid engineer. Nothing fancy. He just stuck to the basics, the core tenets of mining first. He's not an Albert. He's not a Verb, but you could always kind of be kind of like you said, that anchor. I'm hoping. I mean, he hasn't played in a while, so I'll be curious to see again what skill level he comes back at.
And I'd be curious too if he's able to adapt his play style to a different team that's not necessarily the elite BDS fighters. But speaking of Verb Hearth, we've got Verb's next pick in, which is Loaf Pincher, somebody who's an up-and-coming medic, still actively learning the class. Hearth, what kind of feedback can you give us regarding Loaf and his place on Verb's team?
So you said it the best. He's got a lot to learn. The good news is he's got some good veterans on his team, like Verb, who can definitely give him some advice of, hey, this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you need to do. Hopefully he listens, doesn't take anything personal. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I noticed with Loaf Pincher, just seeing him in some mixes and OVDs, he does play very passively. He's not one of those aggressive medics that will TB and apply pressure. He does land a couple clutch tranks, and he does stand in some weird spots that is very dangerous for him. So I hope that this exposure and having these veteran teammates, I hope that he grows from it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think, like you all said, you know, having the ability to be surrounded by veteran players will be a pretty big benefit. And I think what could potentially be one of the biggest steals in the entire draft, Metal picks Mercy, primarily a USLer who dabbled in CTF many seasons ago, really turned out to be a very competent and strong D infantry. Mercy also played as Monster. Good player, brings a lot to the table, significant attendance concerns on his part, but if Metal's able to figure out a way to get Mercy to show up, this could be the biggest value steal of the draft. Mecca, as somebody who's got experience with Mercy in USL, I know Mercy's had some activity issues in USL as well. What are your thoughts on how impactful this pick could be?
I think he'll show up. He's usually there in USL, and if not, he'll message us and be like, "Hey, do I need to show up?" kind of thing. So I think he will show up if we need him. I don't think that should be a concern. I've played with him in Soccer Brawl, Bug Hunt, everywhere. I think he's really good. He also played with me on CKY in that little bastard season we had like between, where we took pure talent 2 hours when he played DM. So I think if he can get back to that form, he's going to be really good. I think it is a steal. He's a really, really, really good mouser, and he can cause well. Um, so I think this is a really good pickup for Metal here.
I agree. And quickly, before the next pick is announced, we've got Marquis that was selected by Metal. I know, Kev, you were instrumental in getting Marquis acclimated to the game. Marquis is not a returning player from years ago. Marquis is not a seasoned veteran. Marquis did not play infantry until he downloaded it on Steam for the first time. Marquis also a little bit from the younger generation, the kind of audience we want to see coming into infantry. Kev, what can you tell us about Marquis and his progression and evolution in the game so far?
Yeah, first he found the game by just Googling just searching free games on Steam. He listens very well. It took 30 minutes to get him set up, but his first OVD, he went 5-14. Only getting better. Also an underrated O infantry that Finished pick.
And for Verb's next pick, he selects Technician. Many of you may know Technician as Fofo or Fofi or Astro. You know, Technician is somebody who's been around a very long time, possibly from the HG days. You know, he dabbled on some, you know, lesser successful squads back in the day before landing on a spot in a remake of Newfie, I believe, back in season 21 of CTFPL. But Fofo, been around a long time. Kev, I know you've seen Fofo, you've played with Fofo. Anything to share?
No.
Well, I do think Technician does have the opportunity to fill out some spots on Verb's team if they need a substitute to get put in, or if they can put Fofo in as a third D-infantry with two other strong D-infantries. I think he can bring some value there, and I think here recently he's been working at providing some support as a COD D-infantry, something I don't think I recall seeing him play in the past. So if that's something he can get comfortable with, I think that's only going to increase his ability to contribute to the team. And looks like we've got the next selection getting loaded up from Decker. I know earlier we talked about the need for some potential O infantries for Decker's squad. It'll be interesting to see if Decker's going to start recognizing that, or if he's got another strategy in mind.
Yeah, I would like to see Decker pick up some O infantries. Maybe someone with some activity in the game.
And it looks like Decker with the overall number 69th pick of this draft, Ant 5. You know, Ant 5 is somebody who's was around for a long time, and even during his hiatuses was always just one step away from kind of being active, and still kind of kept his toes in the water. But Ant 5 or Assault Nova Tiger with a Y is an OD infantry who knows what they're doing, knows how to play. They're a good teammate. He's got a good sense of humor, and I think if he's got the ability to get in to some games over the next week and work on unfading a little bit, that could be a very, very massive sleeper pick in this draft, and can, for second half draft people, I think Ant 5 is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, and he, you know, achieved his meme of being drafted number 69. So I'm very proud of him.
So for him, no matter what, this is going to be a success, and I think that's what we all want to see.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was pure talent back in the day as well.
Mixum picks another potential excellent sleeper pick, Meep. Meep is somebody who's not been active for the past several months, but if he does become active, has a significant chance of being a difference maker for any squad that he's a part of. You know, Meep has been on every iteration of pure talent since its inception. Somebody who can play just about any class. In the championship match that Meep played in on PT, he literally played OINF, DINF, engineer, medic, infill, and JT in one single game. Granted, it was 2 hours long, but Kev, I know you've had the chance to play with Meep before, against Meep before. What are your thoughts?
I think he mained as a medic, but he also plays a solid O infantry as a backup. But his medic, if he were more active, is probably on par to about Waylander.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of potential there, and I think if he's active, that would be a significant pickup for Mixum. As we're waiting for DB's pick to come across, and we'll announce it when it gets selected. But Flair, I'm not going to speak to it myself. But as you watch DB's team start to form, what are some potential strengths? What are some weaknesses? What are your thoughts on DB's roster development thus far?
I have a lot of concerns about DB's roster development. I feel like he left his defense pretty weak, and his offense is kind of riding on the fact of people coming back and hopefully returning to some kind of form. I do think there are bright spots on this team, uh, like Shadow, Kyloff, Nos. the CMN character. I do think that there's potential. I'm curious on how the team comes together, and I hope that you're right that communication is this team's strength because they're going to need it.
And it looks like DB rounds out this round with what I believe it to be his first USLer, primarily USLer, being selected. Demon or Eric, he's got experience having dabbled in CTF previously. Was a pretty strong CTF player when he did make the effort to come play. Mecca, you're our USL expert. I'm under the impression that Demon's fairly successful in USL. How is that skill set can translate to CTF, and what can you say about his activity?
Yeah, I think Eric will be another really Demon, sorry, will be another really good player here. Won a bunch of USL championships, experience in EOL, has dabbled in CTF over the years. So his only issue is that he's a keyboarder. It's the only thing I'd hold against him, but he's gonna end up playing infantry anyways, so I don't think it's gonna matter too much. He's a good listener and he'll be vocal. So I think that's DB is just I think the team's kind of screwed. Because it's a lot of infantries and then a couple inactive players. But I mean, I think there is a lot of talent and just not a lot of support outside, you and GT.
Yeah, it's I would like to see. I'm not exactly sure how Dark Bomber can turn this around this late in the draft. From my perspective, anyways, I do think that if a couple players get active and put on their tryhard hats, that there's definitely a chance for his team to do well and make an impact.
Now, as we look at Posty's team as he's prepping for his back-to-back picks for these 2 rounds, Hearth, can you round out Posty's roster? What are his strengths? What are some weaknesses? I know late game, late round drafts can be sometimes hit or miss in terms of availability and gaps that might exist on rosters. But what's the state of Posty's current roster, and are there any sleepers out there?
Just going to be juggling which infantries are going to be on offense, which ones are going to be on defense. I see a lot of DMs, couple OMs. It's going to need a strong coordination on offense to keep them together.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully this next pick that Posty selected, Conniver, is somebody who can contribute to that. Conniver is another longtime infantry player, played a lot of CTFX, a lot of pub play, dabbled in CTF, primarily played for LC with Adept and that crew. Took a significant hiatus before returning here recently on the iteration of free infantry. And ever since Conniver returned back to the States, he's been very active, working in OVDs and mixes. I do think the most significant issue or obstacle for Conniver is Discord comms, and hopefully with Posty's leadership, maybe Conniver can get more committed to Discord comms, even if he's not talking, at least listening, so that there can be better coordination with the team. I think that would have significant improvements on how much value Conniver can bring to the team. Flair, I think you've had the opportunity to either play with him on defense or against him. Strengths, weaknesses, room for improvement?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like he just kind of does whatever he wants. It's not even so much a skill issue with him. It's more he's just playing his own game and everyone else is in it. And that's a problem when it comes to a team game. And that's a problem when you're trying to achieve certain objectives when you're on offense, which is what I think his primary position is. So I do have some concerns over Conniver as a player, but I do think that there's a good supporting staff for him on Posty's team. So obviously, back in the day, he was on Lesbian Cabbage, which was like a very skill-oriented CTFX team. Adept was very careful about who he put on that team. So there's potential there, but we'll see how it all pans out.
And looks like Posty's next pick is R. For those of you who don't know R, it's his full alias, his old alias is Rendezvous. He's somebody who's been in CTFPL for a long time. I primarily used to associate Rendezvous on Smurfs way back when, even Roar, RWAR prior to that. Rendezvous is somebody who came up primarily playing D heavy before years later kind of transitioning to an O infantry, which I believe is still now his preference for classes. However, I had the luxury of playing with R when he was on PT for our championship season, and R is an excellent communicator. And on all jokes aside, while he certainly brings value playing O-Inf and O-Heavy, you're not going to find somebody who provides coordination and spec info to the ability that R does, where it's actually a game changer. And I know that's not a class that people like to wear with the badge of honor, but can have such a significant benefit to a team that you have somebody that is with such great competence and knowledge of the game and can provide game-changing information in real time. Now, Flair or Hearth, I don't know if y'all ever had the opportunity to play with Rendezvous in the past, but I'm sure y'all played against him previously. Any thoughts on Rendezvous?
Flair, if your memory serves you better on this one, because I really don't remember.
Yeah, I remember Rendezvous being on Smurfs way back in the day, and he was a huge part of that team. I've seen him in a few OVDs and mixes and pub play periodically here. He definitely still has skill. I think he still plays USL and does well in it. So I think his transition to CTF uh, won't be as hard as it would be for some other players. So I have high hopes for R. I think he's kind of a good pick at this stage in the draft, a good solid pick, um, and the best pick that Posty's made for a while here.
And it looks like with DB's next selection, he chooses the one and only Dark Prince DP, somebody who's been around infantry a long time in a variety of roles. I've had the luxury of squatting with him, playing against him. Good player. He's got experience captaining several different squads, both as the primary captain and as a co-captain. Kev, thoughts on DP and what kind of value he can bring to a team?
Yeah, DP's longtime player, captain, multiple squads, provides good leadership. Anything to add, Hearth?
Nope.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, the biggest question mark about any kind of CTF draft league is the question about reliability and dependability. And you're not going to find much better than DP when he's going to be there. When he says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. And so I think DB is fortunate to get somebody of that mindset so late in the draft. Now I do feel like one team I have not looked at in quite some time is Mixum's roster. So just briefly, as we're waiting for the next selection to get made, which just came in as Katana. And so before a roster review, we'll talk about Katana. Katana, somebody who did not get involved in CTF play until probably about halfway through CTFPL's existence, but somebody who quickly proved themselves to be a competent O&D infantry, certainly suffers from some activity issues and levels. Kev or Mecha, do either of y'all have experience playing either with or against Katana?
Yeah, reliable third OM on Canucks. You can trust him to finish a couple of DMs, do turret damage. Don't take a lot of bad deaths. Yeah, he's a good player overall.
Yeah,
I've played with him forever too. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had him on Canucks. I was the captain of that team. He's a very good listener, and he worked well with our offense that was pretty demanding. So I think this could be a good pick for Mixum.
I agree. I played with him in every zone. He's been on my USL squads. We played NML back in like 2002 together when he was still Dark Crystal. I think this is if he shows up, I think this is a really good late pick. He's had some issues being active in USL, so I don't know if he'll show up or not. But if he does show up, he could probably almost start for Mixum's offense.
Decker, keeping this theme of these veteran players, picks Phony. Phony is somebody who's been around infantry a really long time, really only dabbled in CTF, I think some very, very minor CTF PL experience, but certainly dabbled in CTFX and CTF pub play. I was excited when I saw Phony actually registered. I thought maybe he wasn't going to consider it, considering his disposition towards CTF, but he certainly seems like somebody who's really interested in getting more involved in CTF play. And Hearth, I know you were a CTFXer back in the day. Any recollection of playing against or with Phony back in CTFX?
Definitely played against them. But then again, we're talking about X. So as much as you would hear about the good Xers, not a lot of them could really transition to PL, as Kelbs could certainly attest to with all of his iterations of Jisan and Kiyoneko.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mecha, is Phony active in USL as well?
Yeah, he just came back about middle of last season after not playing for like 10 years. So, but he's active. He's SBing. He should be active in this. He's a really good skirmisher. He's won multiple medic and marine awards in skirmish. So I think it will probably translate as soon as he unrusts, which he seems to be on the way of doing.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think Decker, as we've all clearly mentioned multiple times, Decker's team has a variety of very very seasoned veteran players and leaders on the squad. So or on the team. So Phony really couldn't be in a better position than Decker's team to work on unfading and readjusting to CTF play. Verb picks another pretty good sleeper pick, which is England. Not to be confused with England Soul. England is somebody who primarily plays USL, but can play a very competent D infantry, mostly a CAW D infantry. Has even dabbled in playing JT and OD heavy before. England overseas has some lag. Mecca, I know you've played with him in USL for quite some time. Granted, he's not new to CTF, but walk us through some of his USL background and how do you think he's going to perform on Verb's team, surrounded by some strong infantries?
I think he'll be good. I think activity might be slight issue because obviously he's in the UK, so a couple hours ahead. He's a really good USLer. He's had multiple championships. I think the interesting thing to see is a lot of the SKers that signed up for this are very accomplished in SK and very good in SK. So I think there'll be an awakening at the end of this draft to maybe next draft to take some SKers early because they're all pretty much good. But I think he'll be good. He has a little bit of lag armor on his side as well. So I'm assuming you could just slide him right into OINFT and fit him right in with Kaiser and Baza and Jims. It seems like Verb's picking a lot of laggers.
Now, Metal's next pick is another old school player, Epion. So Epion started his CTFPL career after he was recruited by Joe or New Jack to play for Vantage. Epion played originally under the alias Integration back when he was recruited by Joe to Vantage, and he disappeared for a long time. But since he's returned, he's turned out to be a pretty competent O infantry. He can also dabble in DINF. And it's just kind of a fun fact. He's actually Cerrito's brother. So it's neat having another set of brothers active in the game. Certainly, we've got Sov and Iron. We've got Mixum and Planner. Now we've got Cerrito and Epion. So that's a fun fact. I think Epion can bring a lot to the table. And Kev, I know you've witnessed Epion play. I know his activity dropped off a little bit over the past month or so. But what are your thoughts on Epion rounding out an offense as a third OM for a defense as a third DMF?
I think it's really interesting that Cerrito and him are brothers. I did not know that, and they're actually on the same team here, so there's a good connection. And if they're playing on offense together, that's going to be good communication. Look at Sov and Iron.
Yeah, and I think it brings another just an element for the mere fact that you are brothers, some competitive spirit. It's fun, and when you enjoy the game, chances are you're going to play a little bit better too. So, I think Epion's a good late round pick and an up and comer in organized play. Now, Metal rounding out the his second back to back pick is Kel, somebody else who's got IRL uh, relations with another infantry player, Stealthy. Kel recently came back a month or two ago, has been really working hard to unfade his OND infantry. Kind of like a couple of the players we mentioned earlier, it's clear he's working to shed off some of that rust and adapt to organized PL play. Kev, Hearth, I know you guys were close to Stealthy back in the day. Flair, I think you may have been as well. Stealthy's was an excellent player. Kel's turning out to be a competent player. Have you all had the opportunity to see Kel play, and do you have any assessment you can offer?
Yeah, I've noticed Kel in the last few mixes and OVDs that I've been a part of. He's been there and played a little bit of pub. I've actually noticed he's played quite well, and he's been getting better. He's very hard to kill on defense. So I think that there's potential there for sure.
I was
Best
gonna weigh
part
in
about
too.
him,
Yeah,
he listens.
Kel's pretty DMF. Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like Verb's next pick is L Jenks. L Jenks, who's not been active in CTF for quite some time, has really kind of prioritized other zones throughout the game, but nonetheless, he's been a long-time CTF player prior to that. While he primarily used to play engineer and dabbled in some other support classes, he can also JT or O heavy if necessary. Kev, do you have any thoughts on L Jenks? And I would imagine it's probably been some time since y'all have had the chance to play together.
Yeah, I think he mainly played in EOL. I don't actually know too much about him, but I think he played engineer.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Verb can get him active again. And depending upon the activity on Verb's team, it would be nice to see Ljanx have that engineer unfaded so he could swoop in and allow Verb to alternate to another class if needed as well. That could help expand the Verb's team's versatility as well.
Yeah, I also think it's important to note that all these players are going to see play time in this league. So having a backup engineer, having uh, versatile players that can move around the roster as well, that's going to help a lot of these players coming in and maybe trying, organize CTF play for the first time.
I agree. And at no surprise, we see Decker making another selection for a very veteran player in Demon Seed. Demon Seed has been around for probably 25 years, and he's been a co-captain of squad. He has been a captain of squads. And Demon Seed has always been the kind of person who has a lot of relationships with other infantry players, has the ability to bring other infantry players out of retirement, and he's a experienced infantry player. Hearth, do you recall Demon Seed from back in the day, or Mecha? Have you ever dealt with playing with Demon Seed in other zones?
No, I don't really know who he is, unfortunately.
I vaguely remember him, but not enough for me to really comment on. And you already said the main point. He just, again, he's not active, so we don't really have a current assessment of where he stands.
Yeah, it's a little too hard to assess these players that are, I'm happy and I think it's great that they're coming back, but we don't really know what they're working with until we start seeing them play. So I hope in the next, with all the hype, that they start playing in a couple mixes and OVDs here and unrusting and kind of getting a feel for the game again.
Yeah, that's a good analysis, and I think the realization is a lot of these players we're going to have a little bit more of a difficult time assessing, but more importantly, we're going to enjoy watching them get some play time and see what they do bring to the table. Now, Mixum has a good pick, especially this late in the draft in the Korean. When active, one of the best engineers in the history of the game, but certainly throughout his entire CTF PL career, activity has been a significant sore spot for the Korean. But when he's here, he can play probably the best, arguably one of the best engineers in the game. Hearth, Flair, I know you all have had opportunities to play with and against the Korean. When he's here, how valuable is he?
If we're
So
talking the Korean from back in the day, sorry, Flair, but if we're talking
go ahead.
Korean from back in the day, he was great. Again, from the few times he's been here, he's shown flashes of that, just nothing consistent.
Speed run.
Yeah, it's Korean was he was like on my first squad that I made called Redemption. Thank you, ZMN. Uh, and he played great for us then, and we've been great friends since. So when I've seen him in mixes recently, he's been playing great. If he's active, this is a great addition for Mixum. So waiting for Dark Bomber's pick here.
It looks like DB goes with not by choice, somebody who, towards the tail end of their time, turned out to be an excellent squad leader, probably one of the best in the game at the time. I believe he has not played since 2018, so if he is able to come back and be active, certainly Unfading is going to play a significant role in the value he can bring. But, granted, this is later on in the draft. If he is active, this could be a pretty high value selection. Flair, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't played against him since the SOE days, so it's really hard for me to say. I know he was like a growing squad leader at the time, and it was very frustrating because he was very good at mind laming with the grape shots, so he would get me with those sometimes. Yeah, I haven't seen him play as recently as 2018, so maybe someone else has a bit more insight than I do. Guess not. Guess that is what it is. We'll see. We'll see what he's like when he starts playing again.
He's kind of like the Korean. If he actually does show up, he can be a difference maker. But at least Korean was here for a few times over the past couple months to begin that unfading process. But but certainly DB does not necessarily have a dedicated squad leader on the team. So if NBC is here and he's active, along with his Twitch stream and large viewership, could not only be good for DB's team, but maybe could be good for infantry as well.
Does he have a Twitch stream? I didn't even know.
Yes, I
He's
wish
a-
I knew what it was. I'd totally plug him right now, but
Oh, I see. What game does he play? Try to plug him a little bit.
I'm hoping somebody in Spec Chat will save me on that one. But
No.
because my dedication is just to infantry, I don't know other games that exist. I'm just that committed.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. And you are very dedicated. We appreciate it.
So as I'm looking at the list of some remaining players, without saying any out loud to interfere with other captains' picks, there's a few people out there that really could be some pretty good value picks. You certainly have a mix of some newer players that are looking forward to the opportunity to get some playing time. But so far, I think it's been a relatively strong draft. And I know Flair provided some feedback regarding DB's team composition. Hearth, what are your thoughts on either Mixum's team or Decker's team? I'll let you pick.
Well, Flair's on Decker's team, so looking at the list right now, it's a solid team. Good leadership there. Gonna maybe be some conflicting voices because there's some strong personalities on it, to put it lightly. Interested to see how that goes. On Mixum's side, Mixum's a good leader. Plus, you got Smoker there, can help out. And they've got some people in there that are actually good at listening and good communications. All in all, two very solid teams.
Yeah,
Mecca,
I think
go ahead,
Mixum's
go ahead.
team is very well set up for success. There's a lot of players that can listen, like you said, Hearthpool, and that goes a long way in this game. Just everyone being on the same page and trying to achieve the same thing. That's exactly what you want.
And it looks like there's a little confusion about draft order here. Bear with us just 1 second.
So, Kev, what team is looking the best to you so far, out of all the ones that are drafted?
I would probably say Posties.
Really? Okay.
You just need Sov.
Oh, it's okay. That's fair enough. That's the game breaker for you, huh? It's just like
Yep.
doesn't matter who else gets picked.
No, you can carry the worst of them.
Okay, okay, we'll see about that. How about you, Hearthbull? What team is looking the strongest to you?
I like Verbs. Verb seems pretty well rounded. Medic position's probably the weakest on that team. The rest are pretty solid.
Okay,
So if they can work around that, they can make it work. Posty's probably second for me.
okay. Mecca, how about you? What team is kind of standing out to you? I guess he stepped away for a second.
Yeah,
No
I'll
problem.
speak on his behalf. I think Verb's team is certainly shining through. Decker's team is shining through. But at the end of the day, I think Verb's strategy with really prioritizing strong fighters at the potential sacrifice of support classes early on is probably going to be the biggest difference maker. Because not only did he pick strong fighting classes, but in a pinch, these fighters can also play support classes as well. If Verb has to alternate from his primary class of squad leader or engineer to play something else, you've got Iron Monkey that can step up and play medic. You've got you've got Carrot Tank that can step up and play medic. You've got I believe Adjective was on Verb's team. You've got Adjective who can actually engineer and squad leader. So his team is not just well rounded with strong fighters, but fighters that can also play support classes if they needed to, and that's a pretty big benefit that I'm not seeing represented anywhere else.
Yeah, I feel like Verb's team looks really strong on paper, but they just don't have a voice, and that's my concern with Verb's team. It's hard for me to say what team looks the best so far. I know I asked everyone else, but I can't really give a definitive opinion at the moment. I do think Metal's team is surprisingly looking good. considering that he drafted Bond so early, but I think there's a lot of potential there. And I guess Posty's team as well. Yeah.
So, Kev, if you had to come up with a let's say we blink and the draft league is over, and you had to rank these squads as drafted right now from champion to last place, is it too early to guess an order? What do you think?
Yeah, it's way too early because you're picking based on who's actually going to show up and be active. That was the key to this draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly focusing on activity. Yeah, it can certainly make or break you.
Are we done doing picks for the night? Is that what I'm gathering?
It looks like we are getting very close to finishing out the remainder of the picks, and at some point commentary will cease as well. But we're getting close to the end. I think we've got just 2 or 3 more rounds left to go as we're closing that out. And prior to commentary closing out, while I know there were some technical difficulties at the beginning of all of this, we certainly appreciate everybody's participation and attendance and getting infantry game wide to the highest population count that Free and Free Tree has had since it's been on Steam, certainly. So we thank everybody for that. And as we begin to tamp down commentary some, we'll certainly announce draft picks and engage in conversation with you all in spec chat. But once again, thank you all for being here. We look forward to closing out this draft, making this draft league successful. And what we really look forward to doing is having the 114 players that registered this go round increase even more when it's time for CTFDL round 2. So thank you all for being here. We'll be sure to add some closing remarks at the end. Stand by for additional announcements of picks, and we will see you in game.
I'd be open to a Q&A. It's fine with me.
I think Q&A is a great idea, and in between announcements, we can go ahead and get that Q&A started now. So we are actively monitoring the spec chat, and if you have questions or you would like to strike up some dialogue, let us know, and let's make it happen.
Okay, let's get some questions, people.
Carrot Tank, you offered first. What you got?
Now he's shy. He doesn't want to say anything.
Carrot Tank's first question, let's say in an ideal situation, activity is up to par and people show which squad is the best. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Verb's team, and partly because of what I mentioned earlier, is the prioritization of fighter classes early on is probably going to be the biggest difference maker. But like Flair said, the only risk that may exist is the lack of voice, and maybe even some of the personalities that are on there too. But I'd love to hear the opinion of Mecha, Flair.
Yeah, my opinion is exactly that. Like Verb Squad just doesn't have a voice. I'm pretty confident in Posty Squad because they do have a voice, right? Like you can expect Soft to be calling the shots on there. I think they have the biggest sleeper pick of the draft with Chompy. So I think Chompy's going to wreck some people, and people are going to remember Chompy. Yeah, their picks overall are pretty good. I do think after Sov, they did have a couple weak picks, but they rounded out the draft pretty good. Yeah, my vote's going to go for Posty Squad.
No, I like that. And here's a check-in question from Chucky. I have a question. It obviously seems that people are taking this very seriously. So how will it be ensured that newer players get playtime? So Chuck, that's actually an excellent question, and I don't mind speaking to that. So one of the most important things we recognized early on was going to be captain selection. You know, it's one thing to have the best players in the game be captain, and it's also important to ensure we have the best personalities to be captains. And of the 6 captains we've got, I've got a lot of confidence that they're going to actively be seeking ways to get newer players in the game. You know, we kind of went back and forth between should we make it a rule about playtime? Should we mandate certain things? And while all those conversations were taking place, there was an effort by, I believe, both Posty and Decker in the captain's chat to have a gentleman's agreement that newer players would get play time, and all 6 captains immediately agreed to that. So not only am I excited about that, I think it's pretty admirable that the captains recognized it, and 2 have all unanimously agreed to ensuring that newer players will get exposure to the game, have the opportunity to learn, and then most importantly, have the opportunity to play.
Good answer.
Let's see, Beso, long time no see. Hopefully Beso gets involved for the next CTFDL and becomes a little bit more active and maybe even participates as an NT. But Beso says, we talked about fighters being picked early, but let's also look at leading. Which squad is more well-equipped to have the best leaders for offense, defense specifically, and overall? Hearth, you want to take that one?
Probably Posties. Although Decker's squad also has a lot of people that used to be leaders on their squad as well. I mean, honestly, to back up what Verbs or what Flair said, Verb's squad might actually be the weakest on communication over all 6.
Yeah, I would say all the teams look
See,
to
man,
have.
you pick for Bomber.
Yep. Go on, Flair.
Yeah, all the teams look to have like good communication except for Verb's team. So, leadership wise, I won't be. I don't want to be biased. I do think Decker's team does have good leadership. So I guess I will go with Posties as well.
No, yeah, excellent question by Beso, somebody who's also very experienced with leading offenses, defenses, and being an overall squad leader and co-captain. Excellent question. Let's see.
Best and worst pick of the draft.
Oh,
Best pick is honestly probably Iron for how late he went. Worst pick is
Let
probably
me-
ZMN. No offense.
oh
to
yeah,
you.
Worst,
no,
no
and
offense, it's you.
no. I was gonna take that. I was gonna do y'all the benefit, the favor of taking that answer for you all. Certainly ZMN was the worst pick for going as early as I did. I was expecting to kind of be in the honestly the 20s or 30s maybe. And so seeing a second overall was it's flattering, I guess, but certainly when it comes to team picking and strategy, a little bit of a challenge. I think if the captain was a true fighting class player, a first round pick as a support class could make sense, but we'll see how it turns out. But I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to contributing and seeing how we can help.
Let's see here. What type of new and old offense setups can spectators plan to see in terms of strategy? For example, JT offense is old school, or like some class like engineer on offense. Oh, interesting. I would assume defense setups haven't changed much. I think that there's a good chance you can see some different setups. I do think offensive engineer is a thing, and it does work. Hearthpool would disagree. I don't think you're going to see much of the JT offense of old. I think you're going to see mostly power offenses, which is going to be 3 infantries and a heavy. I will think that only one of these teams will run an infiltrator, and that would be Posty's team.
All right, good question, good answer. Jaguar asks a good question. What team is going to pull off the biggest upset this season? So what team are we sleeping on that may surprise somebody?
DB.
If Dark Bomber's team wins one game, that is the biggest upset.
I think it could be beneficial to make an award just for that. The biggest upset of the league. I think that could be exciting.
Well, when you handicap yourself by picking ZMN as your first pick, yeah, it's all uphill from there.
It's
Oh,
hard to recover. It's hard.
I can't disagree. Now here's a fascinating question, especially from somebody who's new to CTF, new to organized play, and that's from the great Chompy himself, who's clearly learning this league very quickly. Chompy's question is, which team will have the most drama?
Verb.
Hearth?
Verb.
Verb.
Let's
And
see.
why?
You've got Carrot Tank and Gun Girl on the same team, and they tend to have a history. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go with Verb's team because I think that Wolven will just instigate the whole thing for his amusement.
Formerly
certainly
known as Shaw.
I certainly could see that, but I'm gonna go a different route with the answer to that question, and I think the potential for the most drama is actually going to be Decker's team.
Could be.
And I think mostly because you've got a lot of experienced players, you've got a lot of headstrong players, and I think over time, with the exception of Ant, who's going to be Mr. Calm, Cool, Collected, Mr. Mediator, calm everybody down. I think at times you could be having a struggle for who's going to be the leader because you're going to have a bunch of people on the team who wants to lead. So if certain people on the team can compromise and take a back seat when needed, um, I think that'll lessen the chance that there is drama. But with a bunch of big personalities and a bunch of people that have got experience leading, that certainly could cause some interference.
Interesting take. Interesting take.
All right, let's look for the next question here.
Carrot Tank keeps spamming, so
Okay, so we're not going to discuss that over. Carrot Tank asks how many games will be in the season. What are some rules and regulations to be aware of? Those will be announced via Discord tomorrow. So I don't want to take away from that. So stay tuned in Discord for tomorrow for rules, regulations, schedules, brackets, things of that nature.
what else you guys got? Let's get some questions.
Yeah, the Q&A was a great idea from Carrot Tank, and we greatly appreciate that. Mugen, great question. While that's going to be included tomorrow on the announcements, certainly something we can talk about today. So because CTFDL is an activity-driven league that's unlike a traditional CTFPL with dedicated squads, there is a consolation for NTs to be used in an emergency situation. While the rosters are going to be up to approximately 18 players per team, there is the ability for, or there is the risk of some teams not being able to show a full team of 10. So in those cases, teams can use a maximum of 2 NTs per team. And there are going to be some rules associated with NTs that we'll kind of discuss at minutia tomorrow. But nonetheless, if both teams are in need of NTs, they will pick those in a snake-style draft that will be picked in opposite order of draft order. And but most importantly, we want to ensure that CTFDL is not at risk of any forfeitures due to attendance. So we hope we don't have to rely on the use of NTs, but certainly NTs will be allowed. They cannot play for another squad. They cannot have registered for CTFDL. And they cannot have denied playing as an NT for another team that requested them. So there are going to be some interesting rules as it relates to NT that we'll share more tomorrow. Another question from Beso. I haven't read it yet, but I know if it's from Beso, it's going to be a good one. Beso asks, if this format is successful, do you think this permanently replaces the idea of CTFPL and dedicated squads? Excellent question. So CTFDL is hopefully accomplishing several different things. One, we want to identify how much interest there is in organized CTF play to begin with. Two, we want to give the CTF players and those aspiring to be CTF players the opportunity to have some competitive play beyond just OVDs and mixes, games that have a little bit more higher stakes than a traditional pub play or CTF or mixums exactly, CTF or mix or OVD play. But the ultimate goal is to try to grow this into standard CTFPL to accomplish dedicated squads again. But we also want to ensure that we don't try CTFPL so early that it's we're trying before it can become successful. So if we're able to continue building the population as we have been, showing interest in CTFDL, such as 114 people registered, it certainly gives me and the rest of us confidence that CTFPL will be a possibility. And we look forward to everybody that's in the arena that's been part of this CTFDL live chat and the terribly messed up stream that you all come back to play the next iteration of CTFDL and help us rebuild CTFPL to even better than it was back in the mid 2000s. And like our user said, let's make CTFPL great again. But as some last picks are kind of funneling through on the back end, Hearth, Flare, Kev, Mecca, anything to add regarding potential for CTFPL in the future?
I hope you guys can do it. I think that this is a good starting point. I think tapping into the USL populace and showing them this kind of game and seeing if they like it, that's the first step because they're pretty active over there. So I think there is potential, but having dedicated squads, that is a big draw for a lot of people and a big reason why some people didn't sign up for the draft league.
Yeah, and I certainly understand some of the hesitation for those that did not sign up this go around for CTFDL. You know, squad play, CTFPL is certainly, you know, really the priority for many players. Not only do they want to play a game they enjoy, but they want to play alongside people that they're friends with or they've played with for a long period of time. You know, USL has had a great track record of doing that for many years, even when, you know, the population for infantry as a whole has been difficult. But USL's proven it can be done. We look forward to taking on that USL model and growing it even more for the betterment of not just CTF, but the game in general. And I do think if we're able to be successful in CTFDL, maybe that'll motivate and inspire some of the players that did not register this go around to participate in later iterations, and then ultimately in organized CTFPL as well. All right. As we're filling out some remaining picks, any other questions on the back end?
I'm getting a question in. Who is the steal of the draft and why? So I want someone else to answer it before I do, because I feel like my answer is obvious. So Hearthbull, Kev, Mecca, you guys got any steals of the draft and why?
Can
Was
I
your
add one?
Iron?
Can I add one piece of criteria to that? Let's say a steal's got to be round 10 or later.
Oh, okay. Round 10 or later. Any steals of the draft?
I've got two in mind. Before I go, Hearth or Kev, do you have any thoughts?
Nope.
Well, then I will go ahead and fill up the void. I think I really think there's two. I think one is Infinite. You know, he went in round 10 or 11, I believe, and he's somebody who plays every single mix as an engineer. You know, granted, engineer is a very shallow play position, but Infinite, he's competent at the class. He's played alongside good squads before. You know he's going to be there. He's dependable. He's going to be there 100% of the time, so activity is not a concern. So certainly, Infinite is a good option. And lastly, I think Metal's pick of Mercy as a potential D-infantry, a really high reward selection if he's active. You know, Mecca mentioned earlier that oftentimes he is still online when USL is playing, even though he's not actively playing inside USL. But if Mercy is here and Metal is able to get him so late in the draft, you basically got what could be a round 3 or 4 D-infantry in the back half of the draft.
Z, why would you say engineer's a shallow class?
A shallow class amongst day-to-day daily players. So, you know, between Decker, myself, Infinite, now that Verb is back, Verb certainly, you begin running out of engineers pretty quickly to routinely play on some of our all-night mix efforts. But
Okay, you meant shell as by pool, not
yeah,
by
pool.
like. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely
like,
shallow pool. No, if I was talking about shallow, I'd certainly be talking about the OMs, but the engineer is shallow in terms of player pool.
Steal a draft for me, if it's rounds 10 and later, is going to be Yosh on Postie's team.
No, Yosh is a good choice, underrated player, and I think he can do quite a bit under the radar. And I don't know if many people would have recognized what he can bring to the table. So yeah, I agree. Great choice.
Yeah, I think he just has that connection with Sav. He's going to fit right in. He's played CTF before. He did really well. I have high expectations of him. Kind of surprised he got drafted so late, but I can see why. There's no risk of him being picked up for someone else.
No, that's some good points, and I think we'll take one or two more Q&As before we close this thing out. I think all the final picking's done on the back end, or nearly done on the back end. But Jaguar asks an excellent question, but I think it's the easiest question. And Jag asks, who is going to be the rookie of CTFDL? Flair?
Oh, that's got to be Chompy.
Chompy.
It's 100%
It's going to be Chompy. Absolutely. He's going to be chomping on defenses left and right. Going to be chomping off offenses left and right. And he's got the lag, he's got the skill, he's got the moldability. Chompy's going to bring a significant amount of joy to his team. Now I will say Chompy still did get drafted relatively early for a rookie player, but nonetheless, I think he's going to walk the walk.
Yeah, I mean, he got drafted early for a reason. I think from what we've seen in OVDs and mixes, there's a lot of potential there for him to make a big impact, and he listens really well. He literally will do anything that you say. He has a little bit of lag, and he's just a killer.
Nope, I agree, and I think as we're closing it out, we'll maybe take this as the final question from BT. Will there be a draft league all-star game in the end? You know, BT, that's not something we've talked about, but I kind of like the idea. It's certainly something that can give, can lend to being another event for the CTF community. So that's certainly something we will talk about over the next week or two to see how something like that could be implemented. You know, taking the best of the best from the 6 teams and maybe having a best 2 of 3 between the 2 all-star teams. That certainly could be an interesting idea. But it does make me think of one final thing we're going to mention regarding draft-related things. Later on this week, we are going to be working to host a podcast to have a full breakdown of the draft, conducting draft analysis, interviews with the team captains, getting feedback from them about what they like about their teams, areas that they think they could maybe have done a little bit better of a job in terms of drafting, people they missed out on that they really wish they could have drafted, and learn about some of those exciting stories in which they had somebody queued up to be drafted, only have them taken the previous pick. So stay tuned for a future podcast that'll most likely be pre-recorded and released. It may not be a live event. If that changes, we'll certainly let you know. But we look forward to an excellent, exciting CTF Draft League. Once again, I would like to thank Flair and Hearthbull and Kev and Mecca for your assistance with commentating on the back end. I want to make sure I thank Revenge and DP and Abbott, who were a significant help on the back end production of this. We had a variety of players that stepped up, even unrequested, to help out with a variety of things, both directly and indirectly. And those people that come to mind are Jewett and Axidus, who played major roles in developing mock draft generators and tools available to captains to assist with drafting. And then certainly we had a large committee made up of myself, Hearth, Kev, Angelus, Bonds, Jackie, Greed, Mixum, that all assisted with the development of power rankings for this year's CTFDL, which, while sometimes controversial, it at least provided captains with an excellent tool to assist them with drafting this go around. But as we come to a close, Flair, Hearth, Kev, any last words or words of wisdom you'd like to share with us before we end it?
Thank you to the CTF community for showing up for this. Thanks for the USL community for showing up, and let's have a great time playing.
Kev?
Exactly what Flair said.
Very
Just
good.
nope.
No, basically what Flair said. I mean, look, we all put the effort into this. It's going to be, hopefully everybody shows up. Most importantly, that we have a good time. Just remember, don't try and sabotage it for your teammates, please.
Yeah, we encourage everybody to show up, be a good team player, put egos aside, get to know other people, build relationships with other players. So when it comes time to start CTFPL, we've got new relationships established. We've got new people accustomed to playing with one another, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to have a very, relatively balanced and competitive CTFPL when that starts. But nonetheless, we're going to make this commentary come to an end. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for hanging around. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get an OVD or mix started here shortly. We look forward to discussing post-draft analysis and rankings with you all after the fact. We look forward to seeing your reactions and getting feedback from you all about how this went and what we can do better next time. Thank you all. Good luck. Good game. Have fun. don't die. Commentary out.